Kaladin. Please don't hurt my Kaladin.
Welcome to the Listenercast.
Oh. I didn't know we actually started.
No, I'm gonna leave that in now.
Oh, please do. Good.
Welcome to the Listenercast.
Hello.
My name is Whitney.
My name's Ryan.
And this is the Listenercast.
This is us. We're back.
We're so back.
We're so back. It's so over for you, but not for us. Yeah, you might want to turn me down. I'm a little loud, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's okay. We'll fix it in post.
Sure, maybe.
You're right. Maybe.
Who knows?
Who's to say?
Oh, Whitney.
Oh, Ryan.
What did we read this week?
Well, I think that we read... Oh, crunchy over here. I think that we read part 3.
Part 3?
Of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson.
I read that same thing. Holy moly.
Holy moly. Holy mackerel.
All right. Well.
We're going to talk about it now.
All right.
As is what we usually do on this podcast.
Mm-hmm. And we'll save the banter for afterwards.
You bet.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. We're going to start with Interlude 1.
Here.
Oh, okay.
I want to make sure. We're really trying to attract the cat today.
Mm-hmm.
This is set for her.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay. Are you ready for Interlude 1?
I am.
Risen. We meet Risen. A young merchant's apprentice who has traveled to Shinovar with her mentor, her Babsk. She finds the Shin lands and its people very strange, and her Babs is trying to show her that it's perfectly acceptable.
They're very odd.
Mm-hmm. Which they're very normal to us. It seems very much like normal human things that happen here. There's actually grass and soil.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And like cows and chickens and horses and stuff like that, and the rest of Roshar doesn't have that. So
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I did underline.
Oh yeah.
Wait, later in the interlude, did you have anything to say about anything other about the setting, I suppose? No, not really. I just kind of found it like pretty interesting that this is like the first time we're seeing Shinovar and other Shin people besides Szeth. So yeah, it's a good little note. And I mean, it just kind of, it's building out the whole world a little bit more as well. Like we get to see, like you said, more of the Shin people. But I feel like this entire part, we just get like more and more little more interesting bits about the actual like world and the cultures in the world and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I underlined is going to be on page 539 here.
Okay.
And it is actually a reference to Szeth.
Oh yeah.
Since you brought him up.
Yes.
Where Vistim asks, I don't know if you guys can, if you're watching the video, can see, but my dog is in the frame. Are you going to take a sit down or? Okay. I don't know. He's here right now, though. He's a little strange. Anywho, so Vistim asks, "You couldn't trade me another soldier, could you?" And Thresh says, "They cannot be sold to an outsider, I'm afraid." He says, "But there was that one you traded me." He said, "It's been nearly 7 years, and you still ask." Vistim says, "You don't know what I got for him, and you gave him to me for practically nothing." "He was truthless," Thresh said, shrugging. "He wasn't worth anything at all. You forced me to take something in trade, though, to confess. I had to throw your payment into a river. I could not take money for a truthless." So I don't know. That's just kind of an interesting, like, more background. Like, it's obviously about
it's about Szeth.
Yeah. So it's just kind of an interesting little tidbit there that's like, he's not wanted. He was wanted, but only for monetary gain, at least by this, like, trader. Yes. So.
Yeah, and it seems like the rest of the Shin people were just happy to get rid of him. Yeah. Like, they literally couldn't take anything for him.
Yeah. And, like, even though they did take something to make it feel like a fair trade for Vistim, they were just like, "Oh, we threw it in the river."
Yeah. I don't know. Another interesting thing that I found in this interlude was just like their whole like interaction beforehand, where the stem is like trading him metal and stuff and everything because they can't damage stone because it's holy.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I can't believe like this is junk to you guys. He's just like, well, we can just carve things into wood and then turn it into metal. And it's just like, that's cool. I don't know. That's just cool to me.
It feels very like, kind of reminds me of Babel a little bit with that.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Very lightly.
Yes. Yeah. You ready to move on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
These interludes are short.
Yeah, they're very short. Interlude 2, Axes is an Amian man who has awoken in an alley after a drunken night before. We learn that he's a man long-lived and has been studying and documenting all manner of spren.
Yeah. I don't know if I marked anything. Sorry.
I didn't really mark anything. I do kind of find this character interesting, though, just because he is different from the rest of our cast. And I think different from the rest of the cast even later on in the future books and everything. But Axes is cool. He just thinks spren are neat.
Yeah. I like this character. He's just a little funky, and I like that he like purposely will like do things to try to attract different types of spren. Like getting really intoxicated, and he sees like intoxication spren.
Yep.
I just think it's a funny, silly time.
He brings up that one spren that can like, can he talk? Can the spren talk? Kusikesh, the protector, that like appears like every single day, and like they've built like little things for him to like stand on or whatever. I don't know. I know like his face also like changes into a bunch of different faces as well.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of crazy and like kind of a cool visual and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You can hear the cicadas outside.
We're in an anime.
So there's some nice background for you. We do live in Georgia, so
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool, actually. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't really have anything else for that little interlude. If you want to move on to the next one.
Interlude 3. We're back to Szeth. All right. Szeth is found being used as a bodyguard / assassin for a small-time crime leader. He's sent to go and handle another rival, and when he arrives, he instead finds the head of his master and someone else possessing his Oathstone. This person tells him his master insists that he kills everyone on this list that he is given. To Szeth's dismay, he realizes that they are all leaders from around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I only marked one thing in this interlude. I think it's a really good tell of Szeth's like power, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
This is before he figures out who his new master is. You know, he's the guy's saying like, you know, you aren't like, are you satisfied? I've been watching you. Like, you've just been sent to intimidate shopkeepers, and you've killed the unimportant, whatever. And Szeth just says, I do as my master demands. The part that I marked right here is, you are squandered. You are not meant for petty extortions and murders. Using you like this, it's like hitching a Rishadium stallion to a rundown market wagon. It's like using a shard blade to slice vegetables, or like using the finest parchment as kindling for a washwater fire. It is a crime. You are a work of art, Szeth Sonataro, a god. And each day Makek throws dung at you. And then Szeth says, who are you? And he says, an admirer of the arts.
Yeah.
So I just think that kind of, even though Szeth says that like there's no greatness in killing, it shows that like it is still like the talent and the power that he has is so just it's intense. He killed the king. Like, that's just at the end of the day, he killed the king. And so he gets this list, and these are some of the most powerful people in Yakavet, or people in the world. 6 high princes, a Soleil. I'm not even gonna try to say that word. Gerontarch.
A Gerontarch, yeah.
I'm assuming that's like similar to a monarch.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I'm incorrect there. And then the king of Yakavet. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I think this chapter's kind of, or this interlude's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Because Zeth he doesn't want to kill, but now he has to.
Yeah.
A bunch more.
And he has to kill some important people.
For what reasons, do you wonder?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Somebody wants power.
Somebody does want power. I don't really. I didn't have any notes.
Okay. Yeah. The only thing I had was that one paragraph that was marked. So.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Are you ready for part 3 of The Way of Kings?
I'm so excited.
Oh my God. All right. Chapter 29. Arrogance. Shallan is discussing the plan to steal Jasnah's soulcaster via Spanreed with Nan-Balat. He informs her that Luesh, the only one who knew how to operate a soulcaster, has died. As well, some men came by requesting the return of the Fabrial. Later, Shallan studies and discusses the death of King Gavilar with Jasnah when King Taravangian comes by and eats lunch with the two. He requests a portrait from Shallan, and she gladly obliges. Shallan's mind begins to wander, and while drawing his likeness, she finds that she has drawn mysterious figures lurking in the doorway. After crumbling up the paper, she apologizes and promises to do a better likeness later.
Yep. Sorry. I heard like a noise and realized it was the cat, and I was like, what? So I got a little distracted for a moment, so forgive me.
It's all good.
Yeah, I don't have anything marked really early on in the chapter.
Yeah. Same.
Let's see what I did mark here. Oh yeah, this is where we kind of get a more, I would say, human look at Jasnah, or at least like through Shallan's eyes, because up until this point, she's been very robotic.
Yeah.
And just kind of rude seeming, perhaps, very direct, very forward.
Yeah.
And something that Shallan says here is Jasnah Kaladin truly loved learning, and she wanted others to as well. Behind the stern gaze, intense eyes, and rarely smiling lips, Jasnah Kaladin truly believed in what she was doing, whatever that was. And this is where Shallan starts questioning, like, what is Jasnah pursuing? Like, what secrets is she hoping to get from these books? And some are centuries old. And so this is when she starts like questioning what Jasnah is searching for as well. Like why she's in Kharbranth. But we don't even really get that answer until the end of this part. So.
Right. I had a few notes. I'm trying to find exactly where it is. I did mark that this is where something called the Dawn Shards are mentioned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in this chapter.
I read this chapter. I will say we did take a week-long break in between since the last time that we recorded. Ryan was sick.
Yep.
And I was out of town. Mm-hmm. So that's why Ryan's sniffling.
Yeah.
But
I'm like fine. I'm just like still just gunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read a lot of this like the week before that I went out of town, so some of it may be a little bit fuzzy, so I apologize if we are struggling through this a little bit more than usual, but just bear with us.
Just a little bit more casual read through. Yeah. Dawn charts were mentioned in this chapter for the first time. I think it's the first time we hear about them. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which those will become important later on. Not going to spoil anything, of course. I like that we see Shallan is like very, very happy being Jasnah's ward.
Yeah. She's like thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah, she like says when she's talking to Nambalat, she's like, oh, I don't really like, or she's thinking while she is talking to Nambalat that she's like, man, I really don't want to have to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I know I have to get this soulcaster and like get out of here, but I'm having a good time. I don't want to leave. Like, yeah. So.
I did have this marked down. It's kind of the Taravangian's interaction with Jasnah. Mm-hmm. Where he's kind of talking to her about her atheism. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of like going back and forth, and they're talking about like, he essentially says like, oh, well, you have no morals. And Jasnah says like, no, I have morals. That's separate from believing in like the Almighty. Well, the Almighty comes up with morals, and Jasnah's like, no, he doesn't. That comes from people and everything.
Yeah.
And like how that conversation ends really just kind of hit me, because it's just like he literally says, let's see, Jasnah said, I simply claim that morality and human will are independent of him too. If you say that, the king said, chuckling, then you've removed all purpose for the Almighty's existence. Indeed. The balcony fell silent. That just kind of goes, that's a good interaction for me personally, because like, I'm not saying like I'm a non-believer or anything. That's not what I'm saying at all. Mm-hmm. But I like that because that's what everything kind of boils down to when you start arguing about beliefs and whatnot with other people, because somebody's going to feel like bad afterwards,
right?
And it's just never good. And Jasnah kind of, does that in a very respectful way. It's a very respectful conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate, that it never turns into like anything super aggressive.
Yeah. Nothing ever really is with her. Like, she's just very like, she's almost like very monotonous and just like very direct in the way that she talks.
Yeah.
Which is like, canonically we know that she is autistic.
Uh-huh.
So it just like kind of makes sense. Like, because at first, like, you're just thinking like, oh my God, like this girl's just mean and she's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Just on the spectrum, baby.
Yeah.
So it like makes sense that like she never really gets to like, there's not much fluctuation in the way that she speaks, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first thing that I had marked here was when she was doing Taravangian's portrait. Mm-hmm. And I highlighted the paragraph where I'm just going to read it and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
It says, Shallan froze, her breath catching, her heart lurching in her chest. She had drawn something standing in the doorway behind the king. Two tall and willowy creatures with cloaks that split down the front and hung at the sides too stiffly, as if they were made of glass. Above the stiff, high collars, where the creature's heads should be, each had a large floating symbol of twisted design full of impossible angles and geometrics. And she looks up and the hallway is empty. So she's like, what? Like, it hadn't been a part of the memory she'd taken. Mm-hmm. She's just confused and she's like, why did I draw this? Where did it come from?
It's so cool.
It's really cool. And that's what I didn't realize, that at the end of this part. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I'd see him.
My dog is like, he's peeking over. Do you want to come sit over here? Come here. He's just like peeking around the corner, being a little lurker. Mm-hmm. And it's very intimidating when you're trying to podcast and his little beady eyes are just staring at you. Come here, buddy. Yeah, so what I was going to say is I didn't realize that we like actually went to Shadesmar in this part. Toward like I read,
you're talking about at the end. Yeah,
in this part specifically, not this chapter, but this part.
Yeah.
Keep
talking. I'm just going to grab my water.
You're fine. Like, I know we've reread. This is my third time reading this book, and every time I just feel like I'm like, how did I not remember that we were going to this place that becomes very important, like in the series, so early on? Which I guess that's like, I don't know. It's not really a spoiler, but Shadesmark comes back.
No. I mean, using context clues, it shows up in this part, like, you know, it's going to come back later.
Yeah, so I was really surprised that we just, like, got it so early on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was too.
I guess I don't remember that happened.
All right. Do you have anything else for this chapter?
I do not. My next note is in the next chapter, so.
Yeah. We'll say before we move on, I do really like the description of these symbol heads and everything. You know, I just think it's cool. It's different. It's weird. It's otherworldly. And they're not there.
Quite literally otherworldly.
Yeah.
Because they are not from this world.
Wow. All right.
Chapter 30.
Let me just get to chapter. There we go.
Darkness Unseen.
Kaladin begins his day having his men go and do the exercises in the lumber yards, now with the bridge fort in its entirety joining in. We also see the perspective of Gaz, where he is discussing with Lamoral the status and placement of bridgemen, and that Kaladin should be taken care of. We then jump back to Kaladin, who is pondering and discussing with Syl how he can save his men, and decided to try out a side carry for the bridge. We get Gaz's perspective, huh?
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's talking to Lamoral.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're just like, yeah, bridgemen. They're like little worms. And they're just like, yeah, I know.
Little worms.
And that one's a problem. We need to take care of him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I actually underlined on, like, our third page here. Gaz says, Stormfather, well, he's thinking this. Stormfather, I hate myself for being a part of this. He'd hated himself for a long time now. It wasn't anything new to him. And then this is when they're talking about Kaladin being a problem. And he says, I'll do something. He promised Lamoral a knife in the night, poison in the food that twisted his insides. The boy's bribes were small, but they were all let him keep ahead of his payments to Lamoral. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, like, Gaz, like, I mean, it's kind of like when we talked about, I think, in the first part, where, like, the slave owner, like, obviously, like, that's not his choice of, like, things to be trading, but he like has, like, that's just the way he has to make his money. It's interesting to see that obviously Gaz does not want to do this.
Yes.
Because, like, sometimes I feel like you look at the interaction he has and you're like, oh, is he getting some, like, weird sick pleasure out of this in some sort of way?
Yeah.
But, like, no, he actually does hate doing this. It just kind of, like, is his job, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a way to humanize him.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this whole perspective is meant to do. He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like his job. Who does? So yeah, it's just it makes him human.
Makes him human.
It kind of shows that he's not. It helps to show that he's not, like, heartless per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually don't have anything else in this chapter.
I don't really either.
Because it's just kind of...
Kaladin's going to do a side carry.
Yeah, it's them figuring that out. And, like, you see that Gaz sees what's happening with the side carry, and he recognizes where it could be, like, dangerous for the bridgemen.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, you should do that.
Problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So... get some encouragement from Gaz on the side carry, actually, but does not. Yeah. It is not thought through by most people involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you ready to move on?
I am, and I actually don't think I have any notes in this chapter either.
Okay. I don't really, because it's straightforward, but I do just love this chapter.
Do you have a summary for it?
I do have a summary for it.
Beautiful.
Kaladin flashback. Kaladin is studying at night while his father is idly drunk, talking with him. Soon thereafter, a group of highwaymen come by and demanding the spheres that Liren possesses. Liren obliges and demands that they take them. Kaladin then realizes that these men are their neighbors, and not one takes any of the spheres out of shame.
Yeah, it's just like... Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's super straightforward. It just, like, it's very interesting that the townspeople feel very strongly about the spears and them being stolen from Wistio.
Yes.
Because it's like kind of a mystery because like no one really like technically knows what happened because Liren was the only one with Wistio when he died.
Yeah.
So everyone is just kind of presuming that Liren stole the spears. So it's just interesting that people are like being presumptuous, but then also like showing up to their house as like a mob.
Yeah. No, it's a scary thing, to be honest, and it's like also very sad that I guess just Kaladin's family's like whole situation and everything, how the town treats them differently. They're not really appreciated.
Yeah.
Even though literally like all Kaladin's family does is care about the village.
Yeah.
And then here comes his literal like neighbors, people he's known his whole life.
Yeah.
Coming to take from him and everything. And I mean, but I do love how it all ends where they all just walk away because they realize like, oh, what we're doing is wrong.
Yeah, because is it this chapter or is it like a later one where like Liren's looking at who it is and they're like, oh, that's so and so, you know, I helped his daughter's broken wrist, or like
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is this one, but
I think, yeah.
But regardless, it just like I really do hate this about Kaladin's past, that like you said, like the townspeople, like their whole point of like Liren being there and being a surgeon is to help people, and somehow this has them like looked down upon.
Yeah. And it's because they understand things that majority of the other people don't, like him being a surgeon and all. And it's like, it's that fear of unknown, fear of tampering with things that, you know, oh, shouldn't be tampered with and everything. And people don't like people who are smarter than them.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It makes sense in that regard, but it's still just like, I guess like looking at it from our perspective, obviously we're like, why would they
do that?
Yeah.
Here he comes again. Hello, Zeus.
This is a Zeus-centric episode.
Yeah.
We like tried to attract the cat with the nice blanket, and instead the dog keeps just like coming out here and staring at us.
Which is fine. I'm fine with Zeus. I like Zeus.
Hey, cutie.
All right. You ready to move on?
Yes.
Side carry.
Chapter 32.
Bridge 4 acquires a new member, the Lopen.
The Lopen.
Who is immediately thrown into a bridge run. Bridge 4, due to their due diligence with Lopen, Hobber, and Dabbid bringing water skins for all of them, we see that Bridge 4 has grown stronger and more adept at bridge runs. However, all of this proves to be useless when they reach the actual battle. They attempt the side carry, but this goes horribly wrong and ends up costing the army the battle. Kaladin is then beaten for his transgressions.
Yeah, so we'll start off on the lighter note.
Lopen.
Yeah, literally, I underlined where he goes, "Hey, Goncho." Hey, you want me, I think. And Kaladin turned. A short, spindly man was waving to him. The man only had one arm. Who would assign to be a bridge man? And then, of course, like it gets like really dark where Kaladin's like, oh, he'd stop an arrow. And that's all bridgemen are good for. But yeah, this is where we meet Lopen. Silly, goofy guy.
I mean, like, everybody likes Lopen.
Yeah.
Like, this is a character that I don't think anybody dislikes.
Yeah, like, I feel like some people could, like, be maybe, like, annoyed by him slightly. But,
oh, yeah, but that's any comedic relief.
Yeah, so we have our first Herdazian.
Yes.
Yeah. Yay. But
I love Herdazians. They're very, very cool people.
And I just love Lopen. And, like, Obviously he doesn't realize the weight of like his circumstances, but he's just like, just so happy to be there and to be included.
You're picking somebody, that means I'm special.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that.
Yeah, it's not bad logic.
No.
Yeah. I have this marked here. Let's see. And it's when Kaladin is kind of, thinking about Lopen and everything. And he's thinking this. Gotta do what you can to stay alive. A voice from his past seemed to whisper, turn a liability into an advantage. And that's just when he decides, like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. And I think that just goes to show that, again, Kaladin he has a heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a man of honor. Let's see. The next thing that I have underlined. Oh, yeah, because what they talk about in the last chapter with the side carry, Kaladin doesn't explain to them why. He never tells them it's to block arrows. He just says, I think it's a new way we can carry it. Maybe it'll help, like, relieve some of the weight off of our shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
He never explains to them, because if it doesn't work, he doesn't want them to get hopeful about it and try to make it work, like, regardless.
Yeah.
So what I actually have underlined here is when Kaladin's talking to Teft, and Kaladin asks him, do you trust me? And Teft says, I guess. Kaladin could see that many of them did not at least fully. Kaladin says this will work. We're going to use the bridge as a shield to block arrows. We need to hurry out in front, faster than the other bridges. It'll be hard to outrun them with the side carry, but it's the only thing I can think of. If it doesn't work, I'll be in front, so I'll be the first to drop. If I die, move the bridge to the shoulder carry. We've practiced doing that, then you'll be rid of me. And of course, they're like, what if we don't want to be rid of you? And then he's like, oh, just run fast and follow my lead. But this is the first time that he tells them, like, we're doing this to block arrows. We're doing this to save ourselves. So I think that's interesting. And then I have underlined in the next chapter, or not next chapter, next page. My apologies. When they're actually on the bridge run, they charge in front of everyone. And Kaladin, this is a thought in his head. He says, get ready. He pushed harder and felt a sudden surge of strength. His legs stopped straining. His breath stopped wheezing. Perhaps it was the anxiety of battle. Perhaps it was the numbness setting in. But the unexpected strength gave him a slight sense of euphoria. He felt it as something were buzzing within him, mixing with his blood. In that moment, it felt like he was pulling the bridge behind him all alone, like a sail toward the ship beneath it.
So let's jump ahead to the end of the chapter in what I underlined. One boot foot tore open his belt pouch. His spears, too precious to leave in the barrack, scattered across the stones. They had somehow lost their stormlight and were now done. Their life run out. And then, of course, the soldiers kept on kicking. But anyways, so it's safe to say, I think, that the stormlight in these spheres are boosting Kaladin in some way. Yeah. We, like, don't really know how. No. But there's just been several times where Kaladin kind of does, like, an almost inhuman feat. Yes. And then the spheres around him are done. Yes. So I think it's safe to assume at this point that they're connected somehow. Yeah. And I mean, we see in the rest of the part as well. Yeah. 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 But do you remember when you first were reading this? Did you have any, like, theories of what you thought it was that was happening? Like, did you put it together? No. Like, definitely not. Like, I think I'm honestly, like, pretty oblivious when it comes to magic systems. Like, and this may be because, like, I have a disability, but I have to have it very blatantly laid out for me on how something works. Oh, okay. So, like, until I get to the point of, like, where they tell you, yeah, this is what's going on, I'm like, something's definitely happening, but, like, my brain is not connecting these little tidbits. I kind of love that. I wish I was like that. Really? Yeah. I honestly, like, because I noticed it when it was first happening and everything, but I was the whole time wondering, like, what? But he didn't do anything. How does he have this ability?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously I'm aware that there is some other outside force going on, but until, like, an author blatantly says, this is why, or this is what's going on, then I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But, like, up until that point, I'm so oblivious.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also just, maybe that's not my disability. That might just be, like, me just being oblivious. I don't know.
Maybe you're just stupid.
I might be. There's another part in this chapter.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the serious part now.
Okay.
When they, like, Kaladin realizes that he's made a horrible mistake.
Yeah. All right.
What I underlined here was Kaladin really watched. He never studied the tactics and needs of the entire army in these assaults. He considered only the needs of his own crew. It was a foolish mistake, and he should have known better. He would have known better if he'd still thought of himself as a real soldier. He hated Sadeas. He hated the way the man used bridge crews. But he shouldn't have changed Bridge 4's basic tactics without considering the larger scheme of the battle. And that's when he realizes he deflected attention to the other bridge crews. And because some of the bridge crews had seen the way that they protected themselves, they attempted to do the same thing, even though they did not have practice doing that. So it just went horribly. And then, of course, this slowed down the actual army getting across the bridges. Yeah. Which, like we said, ended up costing them the battle. So, and this is where Kaladin's like he literally has a thought. He's like, I've just caused the battle. Like, I've just the reason we've cost Sadeas the battle. And then he's like, well, this is it for me. Yeah. Like, he's like, I've done it. Like,
I'm done.
And of course, like, Gaz is in huge trouble too, because he was supposed to take care of Kaladin, and then Kaladin just screwed up so royally. Yeah. But that's what I've got for that chapter.
Ooh, boy. Yeah. That's all I have as well.
Cool. So let's move on to chapter 33.
33.
Cymatics.
Shallan is studying and also going over her plan to steal Jasnah's soulcaster. Wondering why Jasnah is so interested in old fairy tales. Capsule interrupts her and brings her some goodies with him. He discusses with Shallan how he plans to show Jasnah that the Almighty exists. However, Jasnah then interrupts them and proves how Capsule's demonstration is nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool though, because at the beginning of this chapter, if you are reading the physical book, or if you like have it on an e-reader, they do have like all the cities in like a nice little drawing for you at the front of this chapter, so you can go back after you've read the part and be like, oh, that's what they look like. Yeah. And they are like, I don't know, so I really don't know a ton about sacred geometry. But at least the city of Vadenar, at least in the picture that I'm looking at, has it's similar to a symbol in sacred geometry. So I'm assuming that it's probably modeled after that in some like shape or form, since it is like the Almighty, and there is like sacred geometry.
I'm not exactly
in the real world.
I'm not entirely sure what sacred geometry is, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I know very little. Okay. I will say, like, a girl that I was friends with in high school, she was like really into it. Have you? Okay. This is going to be probably like the the weirdest way I could relate this. Have you listened to or are familiar with the album art of Sempiternal by Bring Me the Horizon? Nope. Okay. Look it up real quick.
Okay. How do you spell that?
Just look up Bring Me the Horizon and then just go to their albums.
Bring Me the Horizon.
Like, go on your Spotify and do it.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. Like, that's like the only way I can think to describe it. But like, while you're pulling this up, I'll do my best explanation. And like I said, I don't think I've talked about this since I was a freshman in high school, which was literally over 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But the way that certain symbols are like put together in these shapes, there is like a sacredness to it somehow. Like it's related spiritually to some degree. But that album art is the best thing I can think of that, like, I know that what was used on that album cover is sacred geometry.
Sempiternal.
Okay,
yeah. It's
like a brown cover.
Yeah, it's, for anybody who doesn't care to actually look it up, it's a hexagon made out of a bunch of circles. It looks cool.
Yeah, but like, I know that if I'm remembering correctly, like I said, it's apparently been 10 years since I talked about this last. But yeah, it's related to spirituality somehow.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming that, you know, the way that these cities are built, there might be some relation. There may not be. I might just be speculating. But
who knows?
The way that Vadenar looks in this picture directly is like what made me be like, oh, that kind of looks like this thing that I heard about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And excuse me, because maybe I'm actually stupid. Cymatics is real, right? Not to this extent, but cymatics is a real thing.
Maybe it's related to sacred geometry, and maybe we both have a part of this, but we're just not like connected fully.
I don't know. Because I feel like certain sounds do make shapes, maybe, right?
I mean, so talking from a standpoint of like someone who has worked with synthesizers a lot.
Okay.
They're like, sound waves do have shapes,
right?
And there's things you can do to manipulate them. So like, scientifically, like, yes. I don't know how it works in this degree with like sand and things like that.
Okay.
I don't know how that works in like a real world form, but like sound waves do have shapes.
Right. Yeah, I know that. Okay. All right.
So like, yes, probably.
Please in the comments.
Yeah. If anyone has
talk our ear off about it. I'd love to know more. I mean, I'll probably go back like tonight and be like, cymatics.
Yeah.
And then nothing will show up because it's not real. And I'm just like, I just thought it was real this whole time.
I don't know. Like, I'm thinking from like a synthesizer standpoint where you can like manipulate a sound wave. So I'm thinking you like, that's gotta be, it's real to some degree, but I don't know if it is the same way in the book. Someone probably knows, and you can educate us, and we would love that. And I'm sorry if you do know something about this, and you're sitting there banging your head against the wall.
They're screaming. They're so like, mad
please.
at us.
They're like, please just use Google. Like, Anyways, let's get into this chapter.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about that is Capsule's whole reasoning.
Yes.
That he's going to show the Almighty exists because using certain tones, he can make this sand, make these funny shapes that are all symmetrical. And then he goes on further into it, and this is what I thought was cool because he goes into like Vorin naming conventions being symmetrical, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that because it just goes to show like more about like the world, the culture, and the religion of things, and it's just it adds on to like the world building in a way that's like not just like lore dumping, but also fitting it into the narrative. Yeah. What do you have to say, Whitney?
I don't really know if I underlined anything about that. I didn't anything about that specifically. I think the whole interaction between Capsule and Jasnah is very hysterical, and how she literally walks in the room, sees what he has, and she's like, so are you about to show me that you can like make the cities out of these shapes? Because and then doesn't she ask like, can you make Urithiru or something?
Oh yeah, I think she does. He picked up his book. Urithiru is just a fable. Odd. One would think that your type would be used to believing in fables. Yeah, that's what it is. I had that underlined. Yeah, I did not underline that. I think I may have listened to this chapter. I know you did. I know, because we were both because you're on my Audible account. We were fighting back and forth. Yeah, because there was like times in the like car I was like, oh, I got a long drive, let me just throw this on and I'll go back and read. I'm just like, Whitney's been reading and listening on here, huh? Look, okay, I did not have as much like free time to sit down and physically read. That's fine. So when I was like in the car, or like when I was like at work, and I would like when I was like opening and I have like an hour before I like have to
be like conversational with people.
You don't have to defend yourself to me. I'm Mr. Audiobook. I love them, yeah.
But like that's why like I wasn't as like physical with my reading this time, was because I just like didn't have as much free time, because I was literally listening to an hour when I was at work. And do you listen on like 1 time speed? Like, what speed do you listen to your books at?
So if it's something like this, I will usually listen to at 1 time speed, or like 1.2, 1.3.
I listen to 1.2 mostly.
Yeah, I don't like 1.5 when it's something dense.
Yes.
If it's something that's not dense, I will listen at 1.5. You know, Brittany listens to books at like 2 times speed.
That's crazy.
I
don't know how her brain processes that.
I don't know how her brain processes that either.
I listen to things on 1.5 and I'm like, wait, I had to go back. Like, I don't even process it.
No, she literally is just like, done.
Wow.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I got something else to tell you about her.
I did underline something about just kind of more of the soul casting aspect, because Shallan's like looking at some stuff that she's drawn, and she holds up this one picture, and it's Jasnah sitting in the alcove, hand to the side, touching a crumbled piece of notepaper, a gem on her soulcaster glowing. Shallan held up the next picture. It depicted the same scene just seconds later. The paper had become a ball of flames. It hadn't burned. No, it had become fire. Tongues of flame coiling, a flash of heat in the air. What had it been that Jasnah wished to hide? I don't really care like what she was hiding on that piece of paper, but I think that we get a better depiction of
soul casting.
Like not just like she made fire appear, like she physically turned the piece of paper into flame.
Yeah, and it's not like she didn't burn it, it turned into flame.
Yeah.
That's gas. That's cool.
It's not gas, it's fire.
Shut up. Shut up.
Anyways, I didn't have anything else for this chapter.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Like, you made this dumb joke.
Alright, chapter 34.
Stormwall. Oh, I love this chapter. I remember
this chapter's dope.
I listened to this one, unfortunately. Like, I remember, like...
Was this your first time listening to it? Because you've only read it?
This book, yes.
That's awesome.
I've listened to, I think, Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, though.
Okay.
But I think I've physically read The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
it's different, right?
But I mean, I love the people that do the reading, the voice acting. I don't know. Yeah, they're great. But yeah, I love this chapter. I remember listening to it while I was at work, and then I was like, man, I can't wait to go home and read this. So I'm a really big fan of this chapter.
Kaladin wakes up tied upside down from the Bridge 4 barracks. Syl informs him that Thaddeus has executed Lamoral and that he's deemed the Stormfather his judge. Kaladin tells his boys to come out after the storm and he'll be looking back at them alive. Then the storm wall hits.
His boys.
There's boys. There's homies.
There is. Yeah, so I mean, the first line of this chapter is Bridgemen aren't supposed to survive. Something that I underlined right here on the second page was this is like as he's like waking up, he does as his father had trained him. He began to prod his side to check for broken ribs. He winced as he found several that were tender, at least cracked, probably broken. He felt at his shoulder too, where he feared that his collarbone was broken. One of his eyes was swollen. Time would show if he sustained any serious internal damage. He rubbed his face and flakes of dried blood cracked free and fluttered toward the ground, gash on his head, bloody nose, split lip. And then he's like, I'm alive. What happened? And then that's when he finds out he got beat up. I mean, like, well, he got beat up. And then they also find out that they, executed Lamoral.
Yeah.
And now he has to be strung up and the High Storm decides his fate.
Yeah. And we know how destructive high storms are, so he's probably going to die.
Yeah, like, everyone, wants to believe that Kaladin could survive because he's been their mighty leader this whole time. But like everyone knows, like it's a high storm.
It is.
And that's what I actually underlined, the sentence where he says, "I want you to go back into the barrack and tell the men to come out after the storm. Tell them to look up at me, tied here. Tell them I'll open my eyes and look back at them, and they'll know that I survived."
Yes. I have one thing. It's where Scylla's talking to Kaladin, and she tells him, "Kaladin, I feel cold." And they have that whole interaction. And I guess Scylla's becoming more human-like in this, and
gaining more consciousness.
Yeah, and I think more connection with Kaladin.
Mm-hmm. Their connection's definitely like strengthening.
Yes.
I underlined right at the end of this chapter here. Let's see. Kaladin talks about like gambling, and Syl's like, I don't understand. He says, "I'm putting it on the long bet. If I die, then they'll come out, shake their heads, and tell themselves they knew it would happen. But if I live, they'll remember it, and it will give them hope. They might see it as a miracle." And Syl is silent for a moment. Oh my god, I just almost teared up when I read this. Like just now. Okay. Sorry. Syl was silent for a moment. "Do you want it to be a miracle?" "No," Kaladin whispered, "but for them, I will be." I was reading out loud, but then like my eyes went down and read that other line as I was reading out loud, and I literally like my eyes like welled up for a second.
No, I
was like, oh my god, it's just so.
It is.
It just hits you so heavy.
He's a selfless man.
He is, and oh god, it's just like this man is about to face like one of the worst things that like a man could possibly face, and he's just like, if I survive this, like I'll be a martyr, or not a martyr.
If he dies, he'll be a martyr.
If he dies, he'll be a martyr.
Somewhat.
But if he lives, he will be like
a legend.
Oh, I guess. Yeah. I can't think of what word would be a better fit for that right now, but
he'll be stormblessed.
Exactly.
You want to get into it?
Oh yeah. I like literally listened to both these chapters while I was at work, and I remember like I was I was setting up the patio. I was working at a restaurant. I do not anymore, but I was working and I was like setting up the patio, and I was like, setting up tables, and I was like listening to this, and I was like, God, I was like, I hope nobody looks at me, because I was like going through it like physically when I was listening to this.
Kaladin is buffeted in the storm, being helped by Syl however she can. We're on chapter 35 now, by the way.
A light by which to see.
Kaladin eventually makes it to the eye of the storm, where a giant face appears before him. As the face disappears, Kaladin blacks out. After the storm, he is found alive, just barely, and is cut down. Teft, also realizing that the sphere he gave to Cal is done.
Oh yeah, that's something that happened in the last chapter that we didn't mention, is that you're supposed to keep a spear in your pocket for good luck.
Oh yeah.
And so, or I guess
that's why he had one. Yeah, Teft gave him it.
But it was in his hand. He actually had it in his hand the whole time, and he held onto it the whole storm.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyways, let's get into it. I underlined right here on the second page of this chapter, each moment is a struggle during this high storm. But in those brief moments of light when he dared to look, he thought he saw Syl standing in front of him, her face to the wind, tiny hands forward, as if she were trying to hold back the storm and split the winds as a stone divided the waters of a swift stream. She's just like, ah.
Yeah.
Sweet little Syl.
Yeah, love her.
I just like that imagery, but also, I shows she cares. Do you have anything during the high storm?
I got stuff for when he's in the middle of the high storm.
Yeah. chat about it.
Maybe. Basically, like, when he sees a giant face in the high storm, and then it just smiles at him, and then as soon as it disappears, he blacks out and everything.
Yeah.
Quite literally in the eye of the storm, and if you see something like that, I probably would think, if I was in that situation,
if this were me,
I would think I'm dead, which is what he thought.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I'm dead. Mm-hmm. But then he realized, no, I can feel the water, like the wet ground underneath me.
Yeah, if it were me.
Yeah.
Hypothetically. I think if I woke up alive after the high storm and I saw that face in the middle of it, I'd be like, God's real. 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
That was God.
No.
That
like,
was the Almighty.
Absolutely. If I saw that, I would immediately say, like, oh, okay.
I'd convert.
Oh, off rip. Yeah. Like, you'd kind of have to. You literally just kind of saw evidence of, oh, I'm sorry. That's the Storm Father.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the storm. Dude, that's him. That's the guy.
Yeah.
I saw him. He smiled at me. And I'm alive. And like,
stormblessed for real.
Bro. You kidding me? You got anything else to say?
No, so the next thing that I have is we're actually in Rock's perspective, I believe.
Yeah, Rock
chapter.
is the one that finds him.
Yeah, so Rock is the first one out the door as soon as the storm subsides. Mm-hmm. And he's thinking, like, you know, life had been looking up for a while. How did everything go so wrong so quickly? Let's see. And he's like walking out of the barrack to go find Kaladin. He charged around the side of the building. Other bridgemen left the barrack behind as Tef followed Rock. Storming Horneater like a big lumbering chol. He actually believed. He thought that they'd find that foolish young bridge leader alive. Probably figured they'd discover him having a nice cup of tea relaxing in the shade with the Stormfather himself. And you don't believe? Teft asked himself, still looking down. If you don't, why are you following? But if you did believe, you'd look. You wouldn't stare at your feet, you'd look up and see. And then they look up at Kaladin, and he looks dead. Teft even says he's seen enough dead men on the battlefield to know what he was looking at. And then Kaladin's eyes snap open.
It's awesome.
And then also something drops to the stones. The spear Teft had given him, it splashed into a puddle and stopped there. It was done. No stormlight.
Yeah. So, once again, further proof, Stormlight is helping Kaladin out.
In one way or another.
Yeah, it's doing something. Man. So Kaladin's alive.
He's alive.
He's alive.
All right. Chapter 36. The lesson.
The lesson. All right. Shallan is helping Jasnah bathe, and she almost steals her soulcaster. However, the moment is lost, and Jasnah starts talking to Shallan about philosophy. Jasnah then takes Shallan on a field trip to demonstrate a lesson for her. Jasnah takes Shallan to a bad part of town, and they are accosted by 4 men. Anyways, Jasnah then kills those men and asks Shallan if what she did was okay. Later that night, Shallan is very upset with Jasnah and finally steals the Fabrial from her.
Man.
You still like Jasnah?
Yeah. I like her even more now.
Yeah. Very
what
true.
do you mean?
I don't know. I kind of... What was your first thoughts when you read this chapter? Because it is all about philosophy, and it is a very, very interesting conundrum.
I mean, I agree with what Shallan comes up with.
Yes.
Where she is like, what you did, like, murder is wrong, obviously.
Right.
But it was in self-defense.
But also you went there
with the intent.
Yes.
Of that. I don't know. Like, I mean, But Jasnah makes the point of being like, but now those men will never hurt anyone else again.
Yeah, no, it's literally like that's the point of the chapter.
It just really, it's a moral dilemma where you like it is philosophy.
Yeah.
Do you ever take a philosophy class in college?
Like no.
No.
No, I never
did. I took really? Yeah, it was when I was going to like a liberal arts college. It was like really small. Mm-hmm. I was in a philosophy class of like 9 people. Ooh. It was really interesting. It made you think. But
yeah,
it was really intense because it was a small classroom.
I think the only like philosophy class that I took was like the it was categorized under philosophy. It was just the critical thinking class.
Oh yeah, that is required
that
freshmen.
Everybody has to take and everything. Yeah, that was the only like quote unquote philosophy class that I took.
Yeah, I think because I went to like a liberal arts school, they were like that was our critical thinking class was like that, but it was you could choose from a couple different ones. I don't remember the name of the class I took, but I just remember it being taught by like this really, and I don't mean this derogatory, like decrepit old woman. Like she had been like 80 or 90 teaching that class, and she was so odd. Like I felt like I had walked into like
odd.
Like it was like I felt like I walked into like a cabin in the woods, and she was like a witch.
That's awesome.
Like that was like her energy.
Oh, dude. That's so sick.
She was awesome. She was kind of mean.
Oh, okay.
But like
a witch.
I guess, but like I remember her class being really entertaining, but she was funny, but she was like kind of mean. I could not describe this woman. It feels like a fever dream that I had.
That's great. I love that.
I remember us like using Play-Doh in class one time for something.
For what?
I don't remember. But like we did like this is philosophy. We're so far off topic.
Do you have anything to say about this chapter?
Okay, I do actually. Oh, okay. There's a little bit of a lore.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I enjoyed the story and everything.
No,
I was just like
I'm in a chatty mood today apparently.
No, me too.
Sorry
it's all
everybody.
Good.
We've been seeing each other in a week and like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Like what am I supposed to do? So we get like a nice little lore piece right here. It's like literally the 3rd page.
Yeah.
And it says, by unspoken agreement, the undertext was never shared out loud. Here, a wife would sometimes clarify or even contradict the account of her husband. The only way to preserve such honesty for future scholars was to maintain the sanctity and secrecy of the writing.
Yeah, I had that marked as well.
Cool.
What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting, and I think it makes sense because, like, I feel like there's definitely, like, especially if you are, like, a warrior or, like, a king, and you just, like, want to make yourself sound better or more heroic, you might, like, stretch the truth a little.
Yeah.
But it's not, like, obviously men are not reading in this.
Correct.
Like, time and this culture, and so for the women to be like, yeah, this isn't true, Lamau, in the undertext is like really funny to me.
Yeah.
But also like it literally says like it maintains the sanctity and honesty for future scholars.
Yeah, no, I mean I think it's cool. I think it's great and everything, and I think it goes further into kind of what we touched upon last episode, how information is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Without information and knowledge, you just keep forgetting, and which is, I think, a common theme that reoccurs in this book that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I also underlined. Let's see. This is when they're still talking about their studies, or well, like. Jasnah's been making her study the accounts of like Gavilar's interactions with like the Parshmen and stuff, or the Parshendi that they run into in like the wild.
Yeah.
Let's see. So they're talking about the Parshendi whenever they did make the like pact with the Alethi. Says the Parshendi were willing to share the chasm fiends with us as long as they could still hunt them too.
Yeah.
Like she was saying, like I doubt a treaty would be needed for that. My father just suddenly began talking fervently of the need for an agreement. And Shallan says, so what changed? And Jasnah says, I can't be certain. However, he once described the strange actions of a Parshendi warrior during a chasm fiend hunt. Instead of reaching for his spear when the great shell appeared, this man held his hand to the side in a very suspicious way. Only my father saw it. I suspected he believed that the man planned to summon a blade. The Parshendi realized what he was doing and stopped himself. My father didn't speak of it further, and I assume he didn't want the world's eyes on the Shattered Plains any more than they already were.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives us a look into, like, oh, King Gavilar was, like, aware. Like, because there's a chapter a little bit later where it says that, like, Gavilar was not a scholar.
No.
He did not really care to learn, but all of a sudden he was, like, obsessed with the Parshendi. Yeah. And so we get, like, a little bit of that here, but then we also get the, like, oh, do they have a shard plate and blade? And they're like, we know that they do,
which
because
we know
of the last part.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
Oh yeah.
That was showing up like months prior, but then nobody ever really like brought it up again. And then suddenly we see the shard bearer in the last part of the book.
Yeah.
So
kind of like on the very next page, I kind of love that what stops Shallan from stealing the soulcaster is Jasnah apologizing.
Yeah.
I love that. Because she's literally says, like, I was wrong to judge you so harshly because of your prior education. I myself have often said that passion outperforms upbringing. You have the determination and the capacity to become a respected scholar, Shallan. That's just great. I love that.
Yeah, because, like, you see that Jasnah actually does, like, respect Shallan and, like...
I think she cares about Shallan.
I think she cares about her, and she also sees her potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say in maybe involving the actual lesson?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually underlined where they are walking along the road.
Okay.
Jasnah, on the last page, has explained to her, there's a reputation for this street. Some theater goers were accosted. In each case, people were murdered. And Shallan's like, oh my god, what is going on? Jasnah pulled her glove back on, plunging the roadway back into darkness because she had her soulcaster on, so had some lights. How foolish, Jasnah said. Would you say it was for us to come here, two undefended women, wearing costly clothing and bearing riches? Very foolish, Jasnah. Can we please go? Mm-hmm. Whatever lesson you have in mind isn't worth this. Jasnah drew her lips into a line, then looked toward a narrow, darker hall. Oh my god.
You got it.
Jasnah drew her lips into a line, then looked toward a narrow, darker alleyway off the road they were on. It was almost completely black now that Jasnah had replaced her glove. It's just... the baiting that Jasnah does is like... it makes sense, right? That she's like, let me go out here and look all rich so I will get robbed. And then she says, anyways... Murder. I like that when the guys come up and they have like swords and knives. Jasnah says, and now the lesson.
It's
she
hard.
She whipped off her glove.
That's too tough. I'll say it again.
Too tough.
Bro.
It's awesome. And then she soulcasts them. I
think this is the first time that we see that Jasnah is just cool.
She's so awesome.
All right. Are you ready to move on? Did you have something else?
I actually have another thing.
You go right ahead.
This is after it happens. Shallan says that was horrible. Her hand still held to her breast. It was one of the most awful things I've ever experienced. You killed 4 men. And she says 4 men who were planning to beat, rob, kill, and possibly rape us. You tempted them into coming for us. Did I force them to commit any crimes? You showed off your gemstones. Can a woman not walk with her possessions down the street of a city at night in through a rough area displaying wealth? You all but asked for what happened. And Jasnah says, does that make it right? Do you condone what those men were planning to do? And so that's why, this is the philosophy lesson. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. And then Shallan even asks her why didn't you just kill one? You only needed to kill one of them.
Yeah.
And Jasnah says, no, I didn't. And Shallan says, why? They would have been too frightened to do something like that again. Jasnah says, you don't know that. I sincerely wanted those men gone. A careless barmaid walking home the wrong way cannot protect herself, but I can and I will.
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah.
Final thought. Love her.
I agree.
Are you ready for chapter 37?
I'm ready for chapter 37.
Sides.
Kaladin flashback. Kaladin joins his father at a dinner with Roshone. Roshone says that Liren stole spears from Wistio, and after some harsh words, Kaladin is sent to the kitchens. Cal runs into Laurel and Riller and is accosted by both. Afterwards, Kaladin and his father are on the way back home, and Cal gains a lot of respect for his father because he refused Roshone and also learns that he did, in fact, steal the spheres.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll start this off with the first thing, not the first thing, but one of the things that I have kind of marked here. So, Kaladin is older now.
Yes.
And he's kind of getting into that awkward, I guess you could say, stage where he's having some big boy emotions. And it's when he's talking to his mom.
Yeah.
His mom, which I love. I think is a great mom.
She's a star.
Mm-hmm. And he says, I want to understand. I just want everything to make sense. His mother smiled at that, standing in her brown work dress, hair pulled back in a tail, the top hidden beneath her yellow kerchief. What? Why are you smiling? You just want everything to make sense. Yes. Yeah.
Same.
Because that's a very juvenile thing, but it's also just okay, he's getting to that age now where he's starting to find out that not everything is as it seems.
Right.
And not everybody thinks the same as him and his family. And it's just very good, I think, showing that he's coming to that age and everything mentally and whatnot.
I think it's also a very human emotion.
Oh, yeah.
Of just desperation and just I just want things to make sense.
Yeah.
I just want it to make sense.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. So when they are at Roshone's estate.
Yeah. What page are you on?
Let's see. I'm on 677.
Okay.
This is when they walk in and they sit down with them. Roshone is saying to Liren, if you left, I would contact your new city lord and tell him of the spears stolen from me. Liren says, I would win an inquest over that. Besides, as a surgeon, I'm immune to most demands you can make. It was true. Men and their apprentices who served as an essential function in towns were afforded special protection, even from light eyes. The Voran legal code of citizenship was complex enough that Kaladin still had difficulty understanding it. And this is also where we see where we get background on what happened with Wistio, in the room. Roshone says, you'd win an inquest. You were so meticulous preparing the exact right documents. You were the only one with Wistio when he stamped them. Odd that none of his clerks were there. He said those clerks read him the documents. And then he said, and left the room. Because they were ordered to leave by Bright Lord Wistio. They have admitted this, I believe. Rashon shrugged. He says, I don't need to prove that you stole the spears. I just simply have to continue going on as I have been. I know that your family eats scraps. How long will you continue to make them suffer for your pride? And then Liren, in the next paragraph, Rashon says, I'm not asking if you're intimidated. I'm asking if you're starving. Liren says, not by any means. If we lack for something to eat, we can feast upon the attention you lavish upon us, Bright Lord. We feel your eyes watching, hear your whispers to the townspeople. Judging from the degree of your concern with us, it would seem that you are the one who is intimidated.
It's awesome. Get him. Get him.
Yeah, I just really like that whole scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, I have protection, and it gives you a little world building on, like, even though that they're dark eyes, because they're a surgeon and Kaladin is his apprentice, they have protection under this order. But also, Liren's like, screw you.
Yeah.
You suck.
Yeah.
I'm not intimidated by you. In fact, it seems you're intimidated by me.
Yeah, which is kind of the truth.
It is.
I don't know. I just love how he's made it to where you just absolutely loathe Rashon. Mm-hmm. Like, why do you want the sphere so bad?
Yeah.
What are they going to do for you?
Right. Like, you're already like a... What's the right word? Like a city lord.
Yeah.
Like, do you not have enough money as it is? Like, why do these spears make a difference to you?
Yeah.
But yeah, we also find out that Liren did in fact steal them.
Yes. Yeah. Before we touch on that, let's go back to Laurel.
Yeah.
Laurel's kind of turned her back on Kaladin.
Yeah, and I don't, like, to be so honest with you, I don't perceive it as, like...
I don't see it as malicious.
That's what I was, like, the word I was looking for. I don't see it as malicious. I see it as, like, her trying to protect herself because now, like, she doesn't have the power that she did before. Like, she still does to a degree because, like, Rashon needs her to marry, like... What, Riller. Yeah, she like needs him to marry Riller, or he needs her to marry Riller, because she does still have the connections. So like, I think she does it to protect herself, because I feel like if she acts like she even knows Kaladin, who is like so below her in their society, then Riller's gonna be like, yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
How do you know this Dark Eyes? Why is he important to you? Why do you know him? Yeah. So I think that she's doing it to protect herself. I don't think she...
Yeah. And also, like, they've spent a lot of time apart. Her life is basically turned upside down. Like, I don't blame her at all.
I don't either.
Yeah. And they are just kids.
Yeah, that part too.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then at the end of the chapter, when they're on their way back home...
Yep.
I didn't underline where it happens, but we just find out that...
that he did steal the spheres.
Yeah. Because he says, Wistia was not lucid during the final days, Cal. I knew that with his death, we would lose the promise of a union. Laurel had not reached her day of majority, and the new city lord wouldn't let a Dark Eyes take her inheritance through marriage. And Kaladin says, so you robbed him? I made certain that promises were kept. I had to do something. I couldn't trust the generosity of the new city lord. Wisely, as you can see. So... And Kaladin's like surprised that he was actually justified in stealing them. Yeah. So...
I love that. I also like where he admits to his dad that he wants to be a surgeon. Yeah. Because in this chapter, he literally like goes back and forth. He's like, I want to be a soldier. No, I want to be a surgeon. But with this, his reasoning is, I need to know how they think. They're trained to speak their sentences in knots, and I have to be able to face them and talk back at them.
Yeah, he's like doing it just to kind of be... I don't know what I'm trying to articulate right now. How to be a Light Eyes, essentially. How to speak like them.
Yeah, because this
How
is...
to fit into their society.
Yeah, this also goes back into because Kaladin is so confused about the world.
Yeah.
And he's tired of being, I guess, looked down on. Mm-hmm. Because he's essentially looked down on by everybody in the town.
Yeah.
And he feels... Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
Yeah. Chapter
Pretty
38.
Cool.
Invisager?
Envisager? And who cares?
Someone's like, no, it's pronounced like this. And to you, I say, I'm sorry.
And to you, I say... Kaladin is dying and sees Syl fighting Death's friend. Later, Teft comes and starts to heal Kaladin, seemingly with Stormlight. That's all I wrote. Yeah, that's crazy.
How did he do that?
I don't know.
Teft is like...
Dog.
I mean, you can tell from the last Kaladin chapter, like when they pull him off the roof, that like Teft's on to something. Mm-hmm. Teft is like, something's weird with this guy.
Teft is kind of... He knows something.
Yeah.
So, when Kaladin is like, kind of... messed up. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I guess like just lying there like really, really hurt and everything. And he's like going over everything that's wrong with him.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. It's just such a good, like little moment. Just like what's going on through his head because he's going back and forth between like what he thinks about the world around him and like the situation that he's in, and then what's wrong with me? Oh, I have hypothermia. Oh, I have lacerations.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a constant fever. And it's just a good I don't know, I just really like that.
It just gives you more of his background and how like actually educated he is. Mm-hmm. I underlined, as I was talking about a second ago, that Teft has some suspicions. I literally underlined, he's looking at Kaladin and he's like, why now? Why here? After so many have watched and waited, you come here. It says, but of course, Teft was getting ahead of himself. He didn't know for certain. He only had assumptions and hopes. No, not hopes, fears. He had rejected the Invisagers? How do you want to pronounce that?
Envisagers.
Envisagers. How do they say it in the audiobook?
I don't remember. I read this.
Okay,
I didn't listen to this part. I read it.
Okay. And yet, here he was. He fished in his pocket and pulled out 3 small diamond spears. It had been a long, long while since he'd saved anything of his wages, but he'd held up onto these, thinking, worrying. They glowed with stormlight in his hand. Did he really want to know? Gritting his teeth, Teft moved closer to Kaladin's side, looking down at the unconscious man's face. You bastard, he whispered. You storming bastard. You took a bunch of hanged men and lifted them up just enough to breathe. Now you're going to leave them? I won't have it, you hear? I won't. He pressed the spears into Kaladin's hand, wrapping the limp fingers around them, then laying the hand on Kaladin's abdomen. Then Teft sat back on his heels. What would happen? Fool's tales, Teft had called them. Idle dreams of all the tales, stories, and legends the Invisagers had told. He waited. Nothing happened. Teft's like, all right, I'm a fool. And then Kaladin suddenly gasps, drawing in a short, quick, powerful breath. The glow in his hand faded.
Man, what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah. And then you see Kaladin's eyes snapped open and leaked light, too. He gasped again loudly, and the trailing wisps of light began to twist around the exposed cuts on his chest. A few of them pulled together and knit themselves up.
Yeah. So, Stormlight's healing him, and I'm guessing Stormlight is also empowering him throughout what we've seen also in this book. And that's just confirmation of that. And Teft knows something about it.
Yeah, Teft like has an inkling of like what's going on, but we don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. He's like, something's happening. This isn't natural. I've heard stories about this, but I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And we're like, what are you talking about, Teft?
What are you talking about?
What are you yapping about?
Hey, what are you talking about?
Do you have anything else for this chapter?
Nope.
Nope. You want to move on to chapter 39?
Sure.
Burned into her.
Yeah. Oh, before that, he also says, like, the Envisagers are gone, dead because of what he had done.
Yeah.
So that also is indication that Teft knows kind of what's happening, and also he was directly involved in the destruction of
something. Somehow.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. I read that as well, but I was just kind of... Yeah. I feel like I'm pronouncing this word wrong, and I just...
If people get mad...
I'm sorry. I'm doing my best.
I'm not. Die mad.
Oh my God. I'm a Cancer. My birthday was last week. I'm the sensitive one. Ryan's a Sagittarius.
Which also means I'm the sensitive one.
No, you're fiery.
It doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? I'm fiery.
You're a fire sign. It's okay. We can move on.
Okay.
Someone will know and will be like, that makes so much sense.
Or she could be lying, and I'm actually a Taurus.
He's a Sagittarius.
Your mom's a Sagittarius.
She's an Aries, actually.
That makes so much sense.
Right?
No, I just said that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think you've met my mother.
Exactly.
Okay, chapter 39.
Chapter 39. The 39 steps.
Birdie 9. Wow. Birdie 9. 39.
39.
Burned into her.
Shallan is found drawing the moment those men that Jasnah killed died. That was a really bad way to write that sentence. Oh my God.
My brain for a second, I was like,
oh, I don't know why I wrote it like that. Okay, sorry, everybody.
We need to take English classes again.
Yeah, she's contemplating the philosophy of the deaths and the circumstances, and is also nervous about the theft she committed. Shallan then talks to her brother and tells her that she has done the deed and will return soon. She then decides she's going to try soul casting, but fails to figure it out.
Yep. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't mark anything in this chapter. Like, I think you kind of summed it up perfectly. She's like drawing the murder. She can like see her soul casting, and she's like kind of in turmoil because of the murder, but then she's also in turmoil because she stole the soulcaster. Yeah. And now she has said to her brother, I have it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, come back right now. And she's like, I need to wait because it would be so strange if I stole it and then left and then it's missing.
So weird. I should probably stay here longer.
Yeah, like it'd be so awkward if I left and then Jasnah realizes her soulcaster like doesn't work anymore.
So I guess I just have to stay here, keep being her ward. I don't know.
Yeah, just like for a couple weeks, like just to be sure that like, you know, everything's fine, and then I can go. Yeah.
So she's conflicted about leaving, conflicted about what Jasnah did, because that makes her think about what she did by stealing the soulcaster. It's very good. It's very, very nice. Very
a good lesson in philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of it was just stuff involving that, in which I kind of just jotted down and everything. She can't figure out how the soulcaster works. Yeah. They're fabrials from ancient times. They wouldn't employ modern methods of activation. So she's just, she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. All right. Chapter 40.
Ooh, yeah.
Eyes of red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have a lot of notes on this one, I can see.
Yeah?
Looks like it.
Cool. Kaladin wakes up wondering how he's alive and is feeling so well.
Me too.
Everyone is happy to see him, and then they all go on a bridge run. Kaladin helps by carrying water and spends the latter half of the battle realizing the grander scope of the army. Later on that night, during the stew, Sigzil comes and speaks with Kaladin and says that what he's doing is good, but is for naught.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the chapter starts with him walking out on them practicing, and he's like, "You really need to be careful of when you practice." Because he walks out and one of them's so surprised to see him, they stumble, and then that makes all of them stumble.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, you need to practice because what if one of you trips or stumbles?" Unrelated. What I actually marked on this page was memories of Deathsprend were blended with relieved parts of his... Memories of Deathsprend were blended with relived parts of his life, and both mixed with strange, sudden shocks of strength, icy cold but refreshing. It had been like the cold air of a crisp morning after a long night in a stuffy room, or like rubbing the sap of gulket leaves on sore muscles, making them feel warm and cold at the same time. He could remember those moments so clearly. What had caused them? The fever? How long? He said, checking over the bridgemen, counting them. 33, counting Lopen and the silent Dabbid. Almost all were accounted for. Impossible. If his ribs were healed, then he must have been unconscious for 4 weeks at least. How many bridge runs? 10 days, Moash said. Impossible, Kaladin said. My wounds is why we're so surprised to see you up and walking, Rock said. You must have bones like granite. Is my name you should be having.
Yeah, so...
It's just unnatural how quickly he is healed.
I'm sorry, that happened. I mean, I would think something is up for sure.
Yeah.
Also 10 days, that's it?
Yeah. After you got beaten up by almost to death by soldiers, and then you were strung up on a roof during a high storm.
That just goes to show how, I think, powerful his healing ability is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think literally the next page is something I have underlined.
I have something underlined as well. I wonder if it's the same.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Lopen calls him Captain Kaladin.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, so he's once again back to being a captain.
Yeah.
Which is, I just think it's nice. I think it's something like going back to fate and everything, and also going along with a theme of this chapter where you're something new, but you're also the same, and you can't escape what you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I underlined a part right above the Captain Kaladin thing.
Yeah.
Where as the men turned back to talking and celebrating, he noticed the looks they gave him. Respectful, reverent. They remembered what he said before the high storm. Looking back, Kaladin realized he'd been a little delirious. It now seemed an incredibly arrogant proclamation, not to mention that it smelled of prophecy. If the Ardens discovered that. He says, well, he couldn't undo what he'd done. He'd just have to continue. You were already balancing over a chasm, Kaladin thought to himself. Did you have to scale an even higher cliffside? Which I think it's funny, but it's also yeah, man.
Yeah.
That was not very intellectual, what I just said.
No. Don't say that. Yeah. So later on in this chapter, Kaladin puts it together that, bridgemen are bait. They're meant to be shot at. They're supposed to be easy targets. That's why they don't have shields. Yeah.
I underlined it. I think this goes directly with what you were just saying. He understood just how futile their struggle was. He understood why Sadeas hadn't bothered to acknowledge Kaladin's survival. He was already a bridgeman, and being a bridgeman was a death sentence. And then it says he had hoped to show Sadeas that his bridge crew could be efficient and useful. He'd hoped to prove they deserved protection, shields, armor, training. Kaladin thought that if they acted like soldiers, maybe they'd be seen as soldiers. But none of that would work. A bridgeman who survived was, by definition, a bridgeman who had failed.
That's exactly what I had right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where we see Kaladin falling back into that very melancholy.
Into being the wretch.
Yeah. Nothing matters. Life is not worth living. We're supposed to die. Like, our position in the army is literally to die.
Yeah. Ugh. Do you like the back and forth that we get with Kaladin and his mental state?
I think it's very realistic.
Yeah.
I find him mildly obnoxious. But that's because, like, me personally, I don't like to be around negative people.
Yeah.
Because, like, I already, like, struggle with, like, depression. And so if I'm around a lot of negativity and, like, people that just are, like, very pessimistic, it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to enjoy my life personally.
Yeah.
And so whenever, like, Kaladin gets like this, I just get, like, a little annoyed because, like, I'm like, I know what you can be. And I know how much hope that you can have. And, like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
But, like, it's also very, like, that is depression, though.
Yes.
Where it's, like, I definitely have days where I can wake up and I feel on top of the world. I'm having the best day of my life. And then there's some days of my depression, I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed because nothing matters. And I just want to lay here.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a very realistic depiction, but as a reader, I find it a little annoying.
Yeah. I agree.
But I think that's
the point.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like, oh, get over yourself.
Because, like, at this point in the book...
that sounds bad, but,
like,
you know.
But at this point in the book, you're like, I know what you can be, and I know what you have been.
Yeah.
So snap out of it, man.
Yeah.
Stop being the wretch. Even, actually, this goes along with exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Sigil's talking to him, and he says, you do a good work. At first, I hated you for lying to the men, but I have come to see that a false hope makes them happy. What you do is like giving medicine to a sick man to ease their pain until he dies. Now these men can spend their last days in laughter. You are a healer indeed, Kaladin Stormblessed. You know, and this is like we said, he's falling back into this depression state. And he says he wants to object, to say that it wasn't a false hope, but he couldn't, not with his heart in his stomach, not with what he knew, which is knowing that they're supposed to die.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But we do get the very heartwarming scene in this chapter where they gift Rock the razor.
Yeah.
And then he, like, comes out of the barrack and he's like, he says a word that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Yeah, no. But he's like, you do not know what you've done. Someday I will take you to the peaks and show you the hospitality of kings. Because he's just so happy he can shave his face.
Yeah. Which I get it. I mean, like...
I cannot relate to this. Yeah, but, I mean, like, I can understand...
I mean, I wear my facial hair short and everything. But, like... So, like... You know when you do shave. Yeah. You know when you shave, like...
You just feel so clean and pure.
You feel like a new man and everything. And so, like, I get that. I couldn't imagine, like, as somebody who does regularly, like, groom my face and everything, go so long without shaving. And then
I know
finally you get to.
Yeah, because I know that, like, I mean, my boyfriend has a beard as well, and he keeps it, like, pretty short as well. But, like, I know that, like, when it gets longer and stuff, it, like, can irritate your skin and it gets, like, itchy and things like that. Because, like, that's, like, gifts I've given to Jack is, like, beard oil and, like, things to, like, help with, like, the irritation. And so, like, I can only imagine, like, if you got nothing going for you and you also live in disgusting conditions and your only shower is the rain, like, I can't imagine that's doing any good for your skin that's covered by facial hair that, like, doesn't see the light of day.
Nah, these guys are dirty.
They're disgusting. If you're watching the visual, the cat has appeared.
There she is.
She's so cute. Meow, 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 meow. Okay, chapter 41 of Alds and Milk.
Kaladin flashback. Cal helps his father save Rishon's life after a white spine attack, while Riller perishes.
He does die.
Yeah, and it's... You know, we really only, like, have one interaction with Riller before this, and, like...
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
Right.
But he's still a kid.
Yeah. It's still very, like, unfortunate.
It's very sad.
He's still somebody's son, you know, which I think is hard.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about this chapter.
I do have something marked on the very end here. Because obviously Liren has to decide at one point if he was saving Roshon or Riller. But he realizes that Riller's wounds are too severe, that he's not going to make it no matter what he does. And so Kaladin says, I saw inside a man today. And Liren says, not for the first time, and certainly not for the last. I'm proud of you. I expected to find you here crying as you do when we usually lose a patient. You're learning. Kaladin says, oh my goodness. Kaladin says, when I said I saw inside a man, I wasn't talking about the wounds. Liren didn't respond for a moment and says, I see. Then Kaladin says, you would have let him die if I hadn't been there, wouldn't you? And then Kaladin says, why didn't you? It would have solved so much. And then Liren says it wouldn't have been letting him die. It would have been murdering him. And he's like referring to to saving Roshon, obviously.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then it also says down here, Alds and Milp, the two townsmen, had been on the hunt but hadn't returned with the party, bearing the two wounded light eyes. Roshon had been so worried about Riller that he left them behind so he could travel quickly. The light eyes don't care about life, Liren said, so I must. That's another reason why I wouldn't have let Roshon die, even if you hadn't been there, though looking at you did strengthen me. Kaladin says, I wish it hadn't.
Yeah, right before this I had it marked, actually. Liren says, somebody has to start. Somebody has to step forward and do what is right, because it is right. If nobody starts, then others cannot follow.
Yep.
And it's just like, we get to really see inside the mind of Liren and everything a little bit more. Like, we kind of understand the type of man that he is, where, like, yes, he has, like, his flaws and everything, like everybody. But I do just like that portion where it's like somebody has to start.
Yeah. Do you like Liren? At this point.
Okay. So, at this point, yes, I like Liren. With the context of knowing the more we learn about him in the future, I do get annoyed with Liren. Without saying anything.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever liked him.
Really?
Like, even in these flashbacks, like, while I do think that he says some impactful things, I feel like I don't really like, maybe this is because this is like a personal experience that I had. I don't like him pushing, like, you need to be a surgeon onto his son. Like, I feel like my parents, like, pushed a lot of, like, expectations onto me. Yeah. And so I don't like that, like, right off the bat. Okay, yeah. And so I don't think I like him because of that. And then sometimes just the things he does, or, like, things he says, I'm like sometimes he says, like, some really profound things. And I'm like, okay, yeah, awesome. But, like, half the time when he's talking, like, I want to not be listening.
Yeah, I honestly, so, like, I do, you asked if I like Liren at this point, and I feel the same with you. I do get annoyed with a lot of things that he says and does with Cal and everything, and I think I appreciate his ideology and everything. However, I think he might be a little too unwavering, which makes me not like him.
Okay.
So, like, maybe I'm Lyran neutral.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I would say I dislike him.
Okay.
I would say it's not like a hate or like a strongly dislike. It is just like a mild dislike. Mm-hmm. Like, if I met Lyran, I'd probably be like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
That's my take.
All right.
Chapter 42, Beggars and Barmaids.
Beggars and Barmaids.
This is where Shallan makes her decision.
Mm-hmm. Shallan tells Jasnah that what she did was justified but morally wrong. Jasnah disagrees and says they'll discuss philosophy later. Shallan then returns to her room to study and hears a voice and is spooked by a maid. She then starts looking into the books that Jasnah has been studying and wonders why Jasnah is obsessed with them. Capsule then joins her and begins hard flirting with her. He informs Shallan that he wants to steal Jasnah's soulcaster and it also wants to protect her soul. He also tells her how using a soulcaster is supposedly easy. And then afterwards, Shallan gets a letter from Yalb, or Captain Talsbeck, and decides to spend the rest of her time with Jasnah studying.
Yeah, I actually don't have any notes for this chapter because it's just kind of very straightforward. If you have anything to say, please go ahead.
I just really like Jasnah and Shallan's back and forth when she comes to the decision of like what she thinks about the lesson and everything. I think it's a great interaction.
I agree.
Let's see. Also, when she's, I believe, studying, she says it's claimed that humming, of all things, could make a soulcaster more effective. It was just a passing reference, but it was more than what she'd found anywhere else, which I think is interesting for further world building that has not yet happened that we will get into. That has been touched upon with cymatics.
Yes.
That's cytomics. I don't even know what that is. Yes, I do. Never mind. Yeah. When Shallan's just kind of sitting there pondering about herself, she hears something ask her, "What are you?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Who is there?" Mm-hmm. And that's when the maid comes in and she's like, "Did you speak to me?" And the maid's like, "No."
No. Yeah. Shallan's going crazy. She's losing her mind. Or maybe she's being gaslit.
Who's to say?
Who's to say? Have this. Frowning, Shallan looked through the final notebook. It focused on Natan, the unclaimed hills, and the shattered plains. It collected records of discoveries by hunters, explorers, and tradesmen searching for a river passage to New Natanen. Of the three notebooks, the largest was one that focused on the Voidbringers. And this is like where Shallan's just like, why does Jasnah care so much about these Voidbringers and everything?
Yeah.
It's just so interesting because we haven't gotten an answer to that yet because she hasn't really talked to Shallan about what she's necessarily studying and her whole reason for being there. But it has something to do with Voidbringers.
Yeah.
It has something to do with her dad.
Yeah, but we also don't know, nobody really knows what the Voidbringers are.
Yeah.
Even in a later chapter in this part, she goes to try to figure it out and can't, and then Capsule shows up again and is like, yeah, no, we don't talk about it.
Yeah, because it's just he said that they're used to balance out the goodness of
it's the good
people.
Of the world.
Yeah. It's yeah. Oh, and Capsule's just like going hard in the paint, flirting with Shallan now.
He wants her so bad.
God, he wants her so bad.
All right.
Yeah, I
just don't have a lot for I like it's a good chapter. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just don't like I didn't really have anything that like stuck out to me that I was like I need to be sure that I talk about this.
Right. I'm trying to get to the next chapter.
Chapter 43.
Chapter 43.
The Wretch.
The Wretch?
The Wretch.
Oh, I passed it.
It's on 747.
Oh, okay. Man, listen to them cicadas.
Yeah.
I thought they were all dead. The Wretch. Okay. This is a short one. All right. Kaladin and Bridge 4 are introduced to the new authority and learns that they will permanently be on chasm duty. They begin immediately, and Kaladin is returning to his miserable way of living. Bridge 4 thinks that he's given up on them, and through the help of Syl and Teft, Kaladin decides that he will protect these men, and decides to train them in the spear, and they will escape.
I know it's hard to differentiate like sphere and spear sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Kaladin's falling back into like a really bad depression.
Yeah, we touched on that.
This Light Eyes lady is very mean, very nasty. And yeah, so this is where, like we said, he's falling back into this depression. He's not feeling hopeful anymore. I underlined when Rock moves up to walk beside Kaladin. It's a difficult job we've been given, but we're bridgemen. Life, it's difficult, eh? It's nothing new. We must have plan. How do we fight next? And he says, there is no next fight, Rock. But we've won grand victory. Look, not days ago you were delirious. You should have died. I know this thing, but instead you walk, strong as any other man. Kaladin says it's not a miracle, it's more of a curse. Living this thing is no curse. And Kaladin says, it is if it brings me back to watch you all die. Better I shouldn't have survived that storm. I'm just going to end up dead from a Parshendi arrow. We all are. So, like, Rock is, like, trying to just be, like, super positive. Yeah. Be like, all right, Kaladin, we got this. What's the next move? And Kaladin's just like, we're all going to die. Nothing matters. Yeah.
Kind of not taking what Sigil told him very well and everything.
Yeah. And on this, the next page. On the next page.
On the next one.
Kaladin is still being very upset. They end up walking upon a bridgeman who has died and fallen into this chasm. Teft says, I don't know what the point is, but it seems pathetic to give up. We should keep fighting, right until these arrows take us. You know, journey before destination.
Yep.
Kaladin says, what does that mean? Teft says, I don't know. Looks down quickly. Just something I heard once. And then Sigil says, it's something the Lost Radiance used to say. Kaladin glanced to the side. The soft-spoken Azish man set his shield on a pile. He looked up, brown skin dark in the torchlight. It was their motto, part of it at least. Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination.
Whitney, let's look at the back of the book real quick.
Oh, yeah, I think we talked about this last time.
Speak again the holidays. Oh, life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination. Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. All right.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Oh, man. Yeah.
This is the first time we get a little...
This is the first time we kind of hear the words.
Yeah. Or wait.
All of them.
All of them, yes.
Because we heard it in Dalinar's perspective.
I think we heard Life Before Death in his, though, didn't we? Or something? It was... I don't think it was Journey Before Destiny. No, it might have been. I can't remember.
I think it was Life Before Death.
But regardless, we heard part of it.
Yes.
In one of Dalinar's parts.
Yes.
Yes. And but so now we've got the full thing.
Yeah. Very interesting. I like that we hear it from Teft first.
Yeah. Because he's suspicious.
And then Sigzil, because in the previous chapter with Kaladin, we learned that Sigzil knows stuff.
I think that's after this chapter.
No?
Was it in the one before?
It was when, because Sigzil is the one that told him about Eyes of Red and Blue, and told him about the story and what that all means. And Kaladin's just like...
They're like, he was like, why do you know all this? And then someone was like,
my master.
He's a world singer.
Yeah.
Someone refers to him, be like, I think he's a world singer. Mm-hmm. And then Sigzil gets upset and storms inside.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so yeah, no, it's very, very, very cool.
Yeah. It comes back up in this chapter so many times. Because, I guess they're just, on chasm duty, and Kaladin's just, with his own thoughts. And so it says, I underlined it again, where it says, life before death. What did the saying mean? That men should seek life before seeking death? That was obvious. Or did it mean something else? That life came before death? Again, obvious. And yet the simple words spoke to him. Death comes, they whispered. Death comes to all, but life must come first. Cherish it. Death is the destination, but the journey, that is life. Mm-hmm. That is what matters.
Yeah.
But then he's still being pessimistic.
He is.
Because he's like, nobody cared for the bridgemen. Nobody cared for those at the bottom with the dark eyes. And yet the wind used to whisper to him over and over, life before death, live before you die. Bless you.
Thank you. Also, on the 2 pages before, journey before destination, so whispered on Kaladin's shoulder. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good little... Ooh, I like that.
I like you, little Syl.
I like you, Syl. You're funny.
I don't have anything else for this chapter.
I don't either. But yeah, he says they're going to do the thing, and they're going to teach him the spear.
The spear.
They're going to teach him the spear, and they're going to escape, and they're going to keep on living. All right.
Chapter 44.
Kaladin flashback. The weeping is happening, and Bright Lord Amaram has come to recruit soldiers. Tien is drafted, and Kaladin chooses to join him in order to protect him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do like the scene at the start of this chapter.
Yeah.
Where they're on the roof with their mom. Mm-hmm. Well, at first it's just Tien and Kaladin, and they're just sitting in the rain.
Yeah.
But then their mom joins them, and they talk about stuff, and I just think that that's a very nice little visual. Shows more of her character, and it's also, this is the chapter where Tien shows Kaladin the horse that he made in the carpentry shop, and it's just really cute. Mm-hmm. And Kaladin's like, how does this kid always know how to make me smile?
It's a great moment.
It's very precious.
It's very good. It's very happy.
Yes.
Which is always a tell that if things are going too good and too happy, then something's bad is going to happen, which is exactly what happens in later on in this chapter. What? I
don't know if you can see Nova over here. Oh. She I so badly want her to come. She's falling asleep on the cables over there. I can't stop looking at her because she's so cute. Okay. I did have something underlined. Oh yeah, because when they're on the roof, they talk about the spears that Liren has stolen.
Yeah.
And Kaladin says, talking about Rashon, he's trying to strangle us. Nobody pays for the healing. And I know nobody will pay for work anymore. What kind of value does Father get for those spears that he spends anyways? And Hesina's you're very observant. And she was like, well, did you notice what Liren spent the spears on? And Kaladin was like, yeah, he spent it on bandages. Even though we have so many, but Father is very particular and this, that, and the other. And so then he's like, oh. Like, he's letting Rashon think he's winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lyran's smart.
He is.
He is.
Yeah, and then the next thing that I underlined, do you have anything in between there and the recruiting?
No, you just kind of covered it.
Okay. Yeah, so the next thing that I have is underlined that, you know, so many people, like, no one really volunteered to go into the army.
Yeah.
And so she's, like, calling out all these names, and then she says, Tien, son of Liran. And it's, like, very... I know this book came before this, but it's very...
Hunger Games?
Yes. It's very much like...
I don't know if it did come before Hunger Games.
This book came out in, like, 2010. This book did?
Yeah.
I thought it was, like, 2003 or something.
No, this book came out in, like, 2000. Nah, he started writing it before then and everything. It's not, like... I'm sure it's just, like, coincidental and everything. But,
oh, yeah, you're right. August 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, regardless, like you said, purely coincidental, I'm sure. Yeah. But it is very much that same, like, that same feeling where, like, your chest just tightens and you're, like, this younger, very innocent child should not be going to war or, like, going into this, like, bloodbath. Are you looking up when it was published?
2008.
The Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude. We were
That's
reading
crazy.
those in, like, elementary and middle school.
I guess so.
I'll say middle school, but...
Yeah, it was definitely middle school when the movie came out.
Yeah.
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 That's crazy. Middle school for us, I should say.
Middle school for us.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't realize that book was published so early. Regardless, probably purely coincidence.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's, like I said, still that same feeling that just makes you like...
Oh, yeah. It's heartbreaking, like, because it's a kid.
Yeah, and Kaladin even says, like, I want to take his place, and Rashon says it's not allowed.
Not allowed.
So...
But Kaladin, I think, did do the right thing.
I agree. Because, I mean, like, I don't think you could send a younger sibling to war and feel good about it.
No.
And not, like, follow them there in hopes to protect them.
Yeah. And he tells his family, in 4 years, I'll bring him home. We know that doesn't happen.
I know. I want to cry about it.
Yeah, you don't need to cry about it. Come on now.
All right. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Chapter 45.
Also.
Yep.
Never mind. I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
Because it's a spoiler. Never mind. Sorry.
Shadesmar.
Shadesmar.
Which I didn't realize that we got the name this early on.
Yes. I feel like I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Speak on it.
This is my last summary. I did not get to complete all of my summaries for the week.
Fair enough. Life gets busy.
Yes. Shallan is studying King Gavilar's first meeting with the Parshendi alongside Jasnah. Shallan then makes an excuse to leave and goes off searching for any books involving Voidbringers. Soon Capsule finds her, and after much religious talk and sketching, they are joined by Jasnah. Shallan attempts to sketch an image of herself and Capsule, but once again includes the symbol-headed figures. Now properly freaked out, she returns to her room and communicates with those creatures. Shallan, in a means of defense, uses the soulcaster and somehow turns a goblet into blood. In an attempt to hide this from everyone else, she feigns having an accident by cutting herself with glass. A lot of stuff happens in this chapter.
Yeah. Because she, goes... She's like, okay, Jasnah's studying these Voidbringers. What the heck are they?
Yeah.
And so she goes in search of that. Capsule comes and finds her in the library. Oh, moved my microphone on accident. Capsule comes and finds her in the library and is like, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? And then she's like, oh, you're part of the church. Can you tell me about the Voidbringers? And he's like, no.
Yeah, I can't really do that.
And then, like, she just starts to, like, he keeps, like, kind of hitting on her still at this point.
Yeah.
And she just, like, and then he's like, oh, can you, and she tells him, like, oh, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yeah. And then he's like, I can come with you. And she's like, no. It's like she likes Capsule, but she doesn't want to return his feelings.
Yeah, she just doesn't return. Like, she was like, I think he loves me, but, like, I don't feel love towards him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what she just feels like. And then he's like, well, I need you to do a drawing for me. Like, I need you to capture my likeness. And so that whole thing happens. And then, like, she just starts to feel so suffocated and so, like, anxious.
Yes.
And while she's doing the picture of the two of them together, because he was like, I want to see one of the two of us. She accidentally draws these, like, symbol heads in the background. And so that's when she starts to get, like, really anxious and she's feeling really suffocated. And she's like, I'm sorry, I have to go. And then she, like, keeps drawing, like, she keeps, like, walking around taking memories of different things. And then every time she sits down to draw, she's drawing these, like, symbol headed figures.
And finally, like, she sits down and begins to draw the room that she's, like, in, like, her room. And she literally draws, like, her notebook with her hands.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's kind of trippy.
Yeah.
And they're there. And then they're, like, talking to her.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm just imagining it. And they keep being like, what are you? And then she says, oh, yeah, I have it underlined right here, actually. They said, what are you? She clutches her hand to her chest, losing her balance on the soft bed. Falling to her knees on the rumpled blanket, she put one hand to the side, steadying herself on the nightstand, fingers brushing the large glass goblet that sat there. What am I? She whispered. I'm terrified. This is true. And then that's when the bedroom transforms around her, and she ends up in Shadesmar.
Yes. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for something.
No, you're fine. So they end up in Shadesmar, and then immediately after that, she's, like, in this, like, ocean of, like, small beads, like spears, glass spears, like, surging around her. And, like, something is, like, whispering to her, like, do you want me to change? Like, do you want me to? And then she's just like, I don't know what you mean, like, please help me. And then they're like, I'll change. And that's when she has the bead in her fingers, and it comes to a sudden warmth. She drops it just as the shift of the ocean swelled towed her under, beads rolling over one another with a soft clatter, and she fell back and hit her bed, back in her room. Beside her, the goblet on the nightstand melted, the glass becoming red liquid. So it turned into blood, like, just like that.
And she didn't even have the soulcaster on, though.
Yeah. That's, like, the biggest part of it is, like, the soulcaster was supposed to be the reason that, like, Jasnah can do these things.
Yeah.
But Shallan didn't even just have it on just now.
Nope. So before any of that even happens, though, what was she going to defend herself with?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
She was struggling with her sleeve, trying to get the soulcaster out. It was the only thing she had resembling a weapon. No, that was stupid. She didn't know how to use it. She was helpless,
couldn't make it
except
work.
Storm, she thought, frantic. I can't use that. I promised myself. She began the process anyway. 10 heartbeats to bring forth the fruit of her sin, the proceeds of her most horrific act. She was interrupted midway through by a voice, uncanny yet distinct. What are you? So Shallan was going to summon a shard blade.
Yeah.
Cool.
How does she have one of those?
I guess we gotta find out.
Man. Yeah, I was only thinking about the soulcaster. That's the thing is that I read that part earlier today, And I was like, oh, 10 heartbeats, that's like a shard blade. And then I didn't like fully connect that thought, apparently.
Yeah.
Because you said that just now, and I was like, oh, yeah. But like, I literally read that earlier today, and I was like, oh, like a shard blade. That's crazy. And then just like did not get all the way
You've read
there.
these books twice.
I know. It's so bad.
That's awesome.
I just have a really bad memory.
That's okay.
I think. But, anywho, because she turns this goblet into blood, and now there's so much blood on the floor, she's like, what do I do?
Ooh.
And so she pretends to, well, she doesn't, she self-harms to make it look like that amount of blood came from her arm.
Yeah. And she tries to make it look like she had an accident, like she broke the glass on her or something.
Yeah.
But it really just looks like she tried to kill herself.
Yeah. I don't know what she was expecting, but
it's one of those things where you've been panicked before. You do stupid things.
Yeah.
Maybe not to that extent, but
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else for this chapter. What?
I don't either. So the next chapter is chapter 46, Child of Tanavast.
I have a note.
Oh, for this chapter?
Yeah.
What does it say?
This chapter is so rad. This chapter's cool.
That's so funny. Pardon me. So
Kaladin's dreaming. He was the storm, and he's basically going all around the world. And then he actually, at the end of his dream, he sees Zeth, which is pretty cool. And then he hears a voice, and it says, "Odium comes, most dangerous to all the 16. You will now go." More softly, the voice answered, "Odium reigns." And that happens, and Kaladin wakes up, and he's freaking out, and he beats up his boys. And he's like, "Oh man, sorry guys." And then I think, isn't this where they go train?
yes.
And then they go on their bridge duty, and then they go train. I think. This is chapter 8.
I literally read this earlier today.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is
No.
This is where we get Shen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the parchment added, and then
yeah.
the thing with Adolin.
Yeah, he meets Adolin.
So, something you said, the Odium Reigns thing.
Uh-huh.
There is also something that says the Oath Pact was shattered.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know what that means, but it seems important.
Well, we learn in the prelude.
Mm-hmm.
They broke the Oath Pact.
Yes.
Yeah.
We still don't know what it is, though.
No.
So.
No idea.
It's just brought back up again.
Yep.
On the next page here, this is after Kaladin wakes up from his dream. Everyone's recovered. Sigil, they shave Kaladin's face. And Sigil says, "Your face has strong lines, square and firm with a proud chin. We would call it a leader's face among my people." Kaladin says, "I'm no light eyes," spitting to the side. And they say, "You hate him. You hate them so much." And Kaladin says, "I hate their lies. I hate it that I used to believe they were honorable." And Sigil asks, "Would you cast them down, rule in their place?" And he says, "No." Moash ends up being like, "I would, like, I'd do it in a heartbeat." Mm-hmm. He was like, "I'd join them. I'd be a light eyes." But like, it just kind of gives you more of the politics of like Kaladin's like, "I don't want to be a light eyes." And like, they also talk about right here, like, even if there is a light eyes, dark eye, like, there's going to be some sort of fighting and like disgruntlement.
Somebody will be oppressed.
Yes, thank you. Like, somebody is going to be oppressed regardless of who's in charge.
Yeah.
Like, you can be the perfect leader and try to do everything right, and regardless, there's still going to be oppression.
Yep.
Which I just think is...
real.
Yeah, real good conversation. They talk about how anyone could win a shard blade. As we find out in this part, that's not true. Mm-hmm. I mean, we, like, already knew that because of, like, Kaladin's, like, backstories and stuff like that, but... next we come up upon...
this is the chapter they call Sigil a world singer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't think it happens right there.
Excuse me.
Yeah, oh, good. You know, we got there eventually.
Yeah.
So, after, they get new bridgeman, and it's a parshman. And Tef says, what trick are they trying on us, do you think? And Kaladin says, I suspect it's just what he wants. A test to see if a parshman can be treated or trusted to run bridges. Perhaps he'll do as he's told. Or perhaps he'll refuse to run or will try to kill us. She wins regardless. And I also really like, I don't think I underlined it here, but Kaladin is like, we are going to treat him the exact same way that we treat each other.
Yeah.
He is a bridgeman. Mm-hmm. And, like, he even says in this part, he says, like, he's like the lowest low you could be.
Yeah.
Because you're already a parshman, but on top of that, now you're also a bridgeman. So, like, he is literally, like, Shen is, like, literally, like, bottom of the barrel, like...
Yeah, it's like, pretty...
That's as bad as it gets.
Yeah. And Kaladin kind of looks at it and be like, well, at least I'm not Shen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Kaladin ends up going into town-ish. I don't really know into the war camp.
Yeah, the camps.
And that's where he sees this... What do they call her?
I know what they call her.
Anyway, someone who... I want to use the term that he used in here. A courtesan.
Ah.
Yeah, so there's this courtesan that gets, like, tossed out of a building by one of Sadeas' men, and the guy's, like, kind of beating on her, and she's, like, not even fully clothed, and Kaladin, like, sees this, and he wants to help, but obviously he is so much lower of a rank than these men, and, like literally, he's a bridgeman, like, and, then Adolin comes strutting along.
Yep.
And is like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, this girl, she's horrible. She's, like, starts just talking badly about her. And Adolin just, like, summons his shard blade and is like, what's up? What were you saying?
What's up?
Do you want to continue saying what you were saying about this woman? And then we find out that she had given him a service, and he was like, oh, my rank is payment enough for your service and whatever. And Adolin's like, just be sure you get payment ahead of time next time, but, like, move along and, be careful. And yeah. And he gives Kaladin a sphere. Oh yeah, he does. He gives him an emerald broom, doesn't he? Yeah, which is, like, worth, like, it's like 2 weeks. Like, he'd make that in, like, 2 weeks or something. Yeah. And he, like, tells him to go, like, tell someone, like, oh, I'm not going to make that meeting. Mm-hmm. And he's like, whatever, I'm just going to keep this. Yeah, and still kind of gets mad at him because she's like... It's not honorable. And Kaladin's like, well, I didn't give him my word that I would. He just walked away. Yeah. And she's like, Yeah. Do you have anything else for that chapter? I like that this shows more of Adolin's character. Yeah. In showing that... He's not just kind of like a spoiled rich kid, which we kind of knew that already, but also, like, outside of the people around him, like, he's shown to have honor. Yes. Still, when even, like, I guess where he's not, like, being looked at by his dad and everything, he's still shown to, like, be good. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just nice. I agree. You ready for the next one?
Oh, I'm ready for the next one. Ooh, I'm so ready for the next one, Whitney. Ooh.
All right, chapter 47, Storm Blessings. And in this one, we actually have already kind of seen part of this chapter.
Yes.
In chapter 1, maybe? Book 1, chapter 1?
Yes. It's literally chapter 1.
Yeah, so we get the whole thing with Sen. So we've seen part of this scene. We see Sen, and he dies again. And the Shardbearer's here on this battlefield. And Kaladin kills the Shardbearer. He sees the Shardbearer going for Bright Lord Amaram. Like, the Shardbearer kills Amaram's horse. Amaram is still in the saddle. And so he's having a hard time getting out. He's also in full armor. Kaladin sees the Shardbearer, like, going for Amaram. And because Kaladin, still at this point, believes in honor and believes in, like, Light Eyes, he's like, I have to protect Amaram. Like, he's like, I have to protect him. And so he goes to protect him, and he kills the Shardbearer.
And nobody does it. But Kaladin did it.
Yeah, like, it's almost an impossible feat, and Kaladin did it.
And Kaladin does not want the blade.
Yeah, he tries to give it to his, like, one of his men. Korib. So he tries to give it to Korib.
And he says, like, Amaram literally asks, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's like, why would you not take the blade?
And he said, I'm giving it to my men.
Yeah.
I don't want it. Do you think... So, did Kaladin go and save Amaram because he wanted to save Amaram? Or do you think a lot of it was based off, like...
honor?
Yeah, that...
I think
or, like, because also, like, he wanted to maybe, like... stop... Like, protect the rest of his men.
I think it's a couple things. Yeah. I think at this point, he still has positive feelings towards the Light Eyes in some degree, to where he believes, I think it is partly honor, to where he's like, I have to do what's right, I have to protect Amaram, but also Amaram has made him this he's put him in the army, he's made them this fantastic spearman. He also feels obligated to take care of his men. Yeah, I think it's multiple things that make him go to protect him. Yeah. And the fact that he, like, didn't even want the plate or the blade. Yeah. It's like... He obviously wasn't doing it for that. Yeah. He didn't want to be a Light Eyes.
No.
But I think that he still felt indebted, or at least, like, had to protect the honor of Bright Lord Amaram.
Yes. Man. He killed a Shardbearer.
He did. Like, something that is so impossible. He killed him right through the slit in the eyes.
He got him. Just goes to show Kaladin's that guy.
He's him.
He's him.
He's him.
He's him. Are you ready to move on?
I am.
All right.
Chapter 48. Strawberry.
So, Shallan's in the hospital. Taravangian comes to visit her. Hey, what's up? She's like, I think I'm going to go back with my family. He's like, I think that's a good idea. And I think you're ready. You can, like, leave now. So then Jasnah hears from Taravangian out in the hallway, hey, I heard you were, like, going back to your family. I guess that's a good thing. And she's like, I'm sorry to hear that still, though. And she's like...
we also find out that Jasnah's been
waiting on her, which is awesome because she cares about her, because she's a good person. Are you crying?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just a little.
Oh, okay. No, it's great. She's like, yeah, dude. Like, she's been waiting on her.
Yeah.
She cares about her. And I think Capsule shows up.
And Capsule shows up.
And he's got some bread and he's got some jam.
He's like, please eat it. I feel so bad.
He's like, oh my god, it's strawberry. It's very rare. It's from Shinovar. And Jasnah smells the jam. And she's like,
it smells nasty.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know what strawberries are. This doesn't smell very good.
And then Shallan eats some bread. And then Capsule is also eating some bread. And then Capsule is like, you should eat this jam. And Shallan's like, man, this guy's being weird about this jam.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that the bread was poison. And Jasnah like grabs hold of Shallan, and she's like, I gotta soul cast the poison out of you. And then like that's like she passes out.
Yeah, and she
tells her that it's not gonna work.
Yeah, she tells her the soulcaster's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And we also, something we like kind of brushed over is that Jasnah gives her that gift of the Book of Endless Pages.
Yes.
Which is like I don't know, for the fact that Jasnah is someone who's like a heretic, she was like, this is the best, like, the best go. Someone had it converting me, and it's like very near and dear to me, but I wanted to give it to you. And talks about like the metaphorical sense of it, and
yeah,
it's very nice. But now Capsule's dead.
Capsule's dead, thank God.
Because he got poisoned.
Oh man. So yeah, I do like that. We'll get further into it, right? Yeah, we will.
Okay.
There's another chapter after Strawberry. Yeah, Capsule was being very gung ho about that jam, and then like just scoops out jam with his fingers and like trying to eat it because we learned that was the antidote and everything, but it didn't work this time. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So then we get chapter 49 to Care, and this is where they go into the chasms, and this is where he starts training them in the spear and everything. And he teaches them how to do the proper stance because the proper stance is the most important thing.
Yeah, he like tries to get them all to like push him off balance.
And they can't.
And this is where he figures out, like, he for sure knows that Teft was a part of the military or the army in some sort of way because
he kind of tricks him.
Teft has the stance correct.
Yeah,
and he can't be like knocked over.
And he literally like says like, "Oh, Teft, run them in this drill," and he's like, "Aye, sir."
Yeah,
and he's like,
I got you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a very little heartwarming scene of them being like, okay, we're still in this together. We're still, still Bridge 4.
Yeah, we're still Bridge 4. And he teaches them to care.
Yes. Like literally.
Like that's the most important thing is to care about something. Which is kind of some things that Kaladin needs to listen to.
Right. Oh.
She's showing me her primordial pouch.
Slid right off. Yeah. Gotta lay like that, baby girl. Sorry.
Goofy cat.
She's silly.
She is silly. Backbreaker powder?
Backbreaker powder.
Do you have anything else to say about?
I do not.
Okay, backbreaker powder. So, yep, Shallan wakes up. And Jasnah's kind of mad. Because she kind of finds out about the soulcaster being stolen.
Yeah.
But also,
she's like, which devotee are you with?
Yeah.
Like, who bribed you to do this? And Shallan's like, do you not believe that I was doing this on my own accord? Like, this is not someone trying to convert you. And then she's like, what were you thinking? And Shallan says, my father's dead.
And she's like, She like asks her like, what do you think would have happened? Like, you know what my brother would have done and everything? You didn't think this through at all. Yeah. And you kind of think about it. It's just like, yeah, you didn't think that through, Shallan. But also, never mind.
Thinking too far ahead?
I think I'm thinking too far ahead.
Yeah.
Because you know what I was about to say.
I don't, but
yeah, you do.
I could tell by the way that you stopped.
We learned what Capsule was doing.
Yeah.
We learned that nobody knew who Capsule really was.
Yeah.
He would come and talk to Jasnah and Shallan and be like, oh, yes, I'm familiar with all these Ardents. And then these other Ardents had no idea who he really was. Mm-hmm. The bread was poisoned. The jam was the antidote. This antidote didn't work this time. Shallan always ate the jam, so she would always take the antidote with the poison and everything.
Yeah.
So it always, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
He was trying to kill her all along.
It's very sad. I kind of hate it.
I do too.
Yeah.
All right, in the last chapter, chapter 51.
Man, we finally get the answer.
The answer?
We finally get the answer.
Speak on it.
This chapter is literally how Kaladin became a slave.
Yeah.
Because Amaram, is not a good guy. Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it? This light-eyes man in power.
He's just like, hey, Kaladin, what's up, buddy? You did a good job. Thank you for saving my life. You don't want that shard blade? Nah. Give it to my men. Give it to this guy. And he's like, all right. And he looks at his guards, nods his head. They just kill all his men.
Yeah.
And then the guards kind of take a hold of him. And then Amaram's just like, look, I have to do this. I need this. This is who I am. And Kaladin's upset, be like, just like, you were supposed to be better than them.
Yeah, you were supposed to be honorable. Like, he literally says, like, it's an act. The honorable Bright Lord who cares about his men lies, all of it. And Amaran says, this is for my men. And he took the shard blade from the cloth, holding it into his hand. The gemstone on its pommel let out a flash of white light. You can't begin to understand the weights I carry, spearman. Amaram's voice lost some of its calm tone of reason. He sounded defensive. I can't worry about the lives of a few dark-eyed spearmen when thousands of people may be saved by my decision.
Amaram still did spare his life.
But he made him a slave.
He made him a slave. And that's another major reason why Kaladin hates Light Eyes.
Yeah.
This was a good part, Whitney.
I think we say that at the end of every single one.
I think this part was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I actually can't even remember what happens in the next part, so I'm excited to...
I do remember, but also, can we say we're done talking about this part?
I have nothing to say. I mean, I read that little bit from Amaram, but that was it.
So, I think we need to make a decision about our next episode.
Okay. What's the decision?
Part 5 is really short.
That's okay.
Did we want to do part 4 by itself?
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a part 5 separate, like it be its own episode, and then we talk about the book as a whole. Or we just do part 4 and 5 together.
I think
it would be long, but also like part 5 is so short.
Yeah, so what I think, because part 4 is probably going to be as long as our other episodes, which go right about 2.5 hours to like 3 hours in between there. Mm-hmm. I think we should do part 4 on its own and do part 5 on its own, but at the end of part 5 talk about the book as a whole. So that'll extend the episode length.
Okay.
I just think that makes more sense. And plus, like, that way we won't be pushing ourselves to read.
True. Very true.
However many pages this is. Even though, like, part 5 is short, like, that would still be...
Yeah.
Like, let's see.
Let's see.
Like 400 plus 450 pages in, like, a week.
Yeah.
And, like, while I could do that...
It's pushing it.
Yeah, because like I read other books alongside this, and I have other hobbies.
Yeah.
Work, life, things. So I try to have a social life, even though I like to be a hermit.
50 pages.
Yeah, and that's fine. So let's just do
less than 50 pages. Yeah.
We'll just do part 5 separate, and then we'll talk about the book as a whole.
Okay.
That'll probably be a shorter episode, and then we'll start Words of Radiance. Cool. If everybody agrees with that, let us know.
We could also do the part 5 episode, like, if people want to send in questions or people want to like say, if people, we'll say that for when we get to part 5, we're going to talk about the whole book afterwards. Send in questions, send in your thoughts actually, and we'll read them.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That sounds fun. Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, if this was where you're leaving off, thank you for listening, as always. Very appreciated. You know, if you can give us a rating, give us a like, whatever platform you're listening on, definitely helps out a lot. Really happy about the support we've received so far and are continuing to receive. Very, very thankful. But yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
All right.
Real yapper hours.
Real yapper hours.
Are you reading anything new right now?
No.
Okay.
I hate books right now. I hate them. I hate books.
I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King in like 2 days. I don't know what happened. It was a very easy read. I think it was like 320 pages. It wasn't too bad.
Oh, okay.
That's like a literary fiction novel.
Yeah.
And it talks about... so I give it 4.5 stars. And whenever I do I'm going to do like a book wrap up on my TikTok of like everything I read in this month. I still haven't done last month.
You have a TikTok?
I do. I have a little book talk.
Cringe.
I need to yap more about books. I didn't know
you had a TikTok.
Yeah, I have like a book talk where I just like talk about books. It's like literally I just started it like not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
So like it's just where I did like a monthly wrap up.
You were one of my best friends. Why have you not told me this?
Because I'm embarrassed.
Oh, I'm also not on TikTok.
Yeah, so like let a girl live.
I'm just yanking. I'm just yanking your chain.
Just yanking my chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel weird being like, I'm making content about books on the internet.
I'm making a content.
I already have a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm doing a lot. But yeah, I'm doing it very sparingly. It's just like when I get the energy to like make a video, I'm like, okay, I'll talk about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still haven't done my like June wrap up of like books that I read in June.
Uh-huh.
But when I do my July one, I'm going to talk about Writers and Lovers. Very good book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't think it will be that high of a rating for most people. I think for me, I gave it such a high rating because it's kind of like a funny story, but it's very heartfelt at the same time. It's about like a writer who's like in her 30s. She's like a waitress, like pay her bills. She's like horribly in debt from like going to college. And, she's like kind of involved with like these two guys, but it mostly like the book that she's writing is about her mother, and her mom had passed away like within the last year of her starting this book, and the book is like about her mom. And so just the way that the book kind of explores grief was very, very good to me. And like as someone who is like grieving, because like I lost my dad not that long ago, it was like a very good it was a very nice way to explore grief, I think. So I think that's why I gave that book such a high rating, was because like there was so many things in that book about grief that just like I felt very good. I never like cried during that book, but like there were some things I definitely felt in my heart.
I hear you.
So like I said, like I don't think it's going to be that high of a rating for everyone.
Yeah.
But for me, the exploration.
It was a personal thing for you. Yeah.
And that's what like, speaking of TikTok, one of the TikToks that I made was like a sound being like, oh, I would never give any book 5 stars. My tastes are so refined. And then it's like someone pinned you like, you get 5 stars and you get 5 stars. And one of the books that I put on my 5-star, like in that video, is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Okay, yeah.
And so I know that like someone commented and was like, I can't believe that this is a 5-star read. This is like J.K. Rowling like level writing. I don't know how anyone reads this crap, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of people like defended me in the comments, which was like very nice. But like, it was just really funny to me because I was like, I like agree, like the writing is probably not like, I still think it's very good. I think it's a very good novel. It was 5 stars for me because it was what I needed at that moment in time. Yeah. Like, and sometimes, And like, I mean, reading is subjective in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people that
all media consumption is objective.
Right.
Like, not objective, subjective. Excuse me. It's all objective.
Like, yes.
Subjective. Yeah. Yeah.
So, because I mean, there's so many people that don't like Brandon Sanderson, and like that's fine.
Oh yeah. Totally.
I really am not a romantasy person, and like I see like so much of book talk is people that love Fourth Wing and ACOTAR and like just romantasy in general, and I'm just not that person.
I need to show you this horrid tweet.
Okay.
Later.
But regardless, like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo it's like a historical fiction novel, but it's an LGBT based novel. I don't know if you've read it, or I know you haven't read it, but I don't know if you know anything about it.
I do.
It's like Hollywood starlet.
Yes.
Ends up being gay, but like, you know, it's like,
yeah.
Anyways, regardless, I read that book at a time that was perfect for me to read it. So it was a 5-star read for me.
Absolutely.
And I know some people might hear that and be like, I don't know, that the writing's horrible, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I enjoyed it. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. So
it's almost like you have an opinion.
That's why I have a podcast. I'm just kidding. No, it is like why I have a book talk though, is because I talk about.
You know what they say about opinions.
What?
I can't say the rest of that quote. All right, yes I can. They're like buttholes. We all have one.
It's true. Mm-hmm. We all have opinions, and that's okay.
And we all have buttholes.
That's okay too.
That's yeah. Hey, Whitney, it's okay if you have a butthole. It's okay. You can tell me.
Bit's over. Bit's over. I was gonna say something else, but I was like, I gotta stop this while we're ahead.
Do you want to see this tweet?
Yeah, let me see the tweet.
My good friend Jamie sent me.
Oh,
he's my best friend.
Let me see it. Oh. Wait, hold on.
And look at the book.
Well, I know the book is Fourth Wing.
But that has nothing to do with the tweet, really.
Yeah, so to explain to the audio listener, I'm not even going to put this picture up anyways.
Yeah.
But it's like very obviously a guy trying to appeal to the book talk girlies, which get your bag king, none of my business. But he's got like this super veiny hand opening up Fourth Wing, and it says, he's also got his nails painted black, so he's like, let me let the alternative girlies know.
Yeah.
And it says reading, book emoji, eye emoji, but also
look at the bookmark.
It's Valorant.
Yeah, it's a Valorant bookmark. That's just you. I will tell you. So I actually do you see Fourth Wing on my shelf anymore? Oh my god, what'd you do with it? So, and my entire ACOTAR series is gone as well. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll tell you about that. So, I needed room on my shelves. Okay. I never will read those books again. I will never read ACOTAR again. Like, probably never. Like, I was talking to my sister, but my sister... I was going to ask if I could borrow the second one. Oh, well... I have somebody else I can borrow it from. Yeah, so, my sister bought me Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. She bought me both of them. And she asked me if I had read them. And I was like, I tried to read them. I think if I had read them the same time I read ACOTAR, I would have enjoyed this. Mm-hmm. However... I read ACOTAR like 2 years ago, and that was when I first got back into reading. Mm-hmm. Now that I read very consistently as a hobby, my taste has changed into more refined, like, I don't want to say refined, into historical fiction, literary fiction, horror, thriller. You have refined your taste in what you like. Right, and that is, romantasy is not there for me anymore. Yeah. And so my sister was like, oh, that sucks, but like, just give it to a friend that would want it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay. And so I posted on my Instagram story just being like, hey, it was like my ACOTAR books and Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. And I was like, hey, if anybody wants these, let me know. I'm giving them away for free. If nobody, I remember saying that. Yeah, if nobody wants them, like, I'm just going to take them to like a secondhand bookstore or whatever. Yeah. And my friend Kennedy
swiped up.
I knew it was going to be Kennedy.
She swiped up and she was like, I haven't read them yet. And so I was like, okay, like we were supposed to hang out on the 4th of July. It was like that week. And so I was like, okay, like I'll bring them like when I see you this week. And yeah, so she has my entire ACOTAR series and Fourth Wing. And I gave her Iron Widow.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's another one that I don't think I'll read again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it when I read it, but like it didn't have like a reread factor for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry you can't borrow ACOTAR. I mean, you can ask Kennedy if you want, but
I can ask Brittany.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what were you gonna say about her earlier?
Yeah. Okay, so on my way here, I got a text, and then I did not answer the text because I was driving, but I did call her. You know what that text said?
What?
I finally finished Well of Ascension.
What'd she say about it?
Oh, she loved it. She literally, like, I called her and just talked to her about it, and she ordered the 3rd book.
Awesome.
Like while we were talking and everything.
It is Amazon Prime Day.
It is. It was like 17% off.
Period.
So
I got a new little exercise machine for like 30% off. I was really excited.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked on it yet. But so she finished Well of Ascension. She ordered Hero of Ages. Nice. And she's very excited for Hero of Ages. She's very upset that she has to wait 2 days for it to get here.
Whitney.
Because, like,
Godspeed.
I remember when I read Mistborn for the first time, because it was my first fantasy series, as we have said many times. When I finished Well of Ascension, I literally, like, thought to myself, how did people wait for the next book to come out? Because how it ends...
Oh my, it's so messed up.
Dude, it is...
We're going to do Mistborn on this podcast after the 5th Stormlight book.
Yeah.
Because we have to... Like, dude, it comes out in December. We, like, legally have to do the 5th book after it comes out.
Yeah.
So we'll do the 5th book of Stormlight, and then after that we'll do Mistborn.
Yes, we will. I agree. We will. It's
yeah, I remember
that kind of works out because I think Mistborn is like a winter read.
I did actually last year. I read Mistborn in like January, February, so it's very fitting for me to be reading it again. I remember. I think it was Mistborn where I finished Well of Ascension, and I remember it was like 7 p.m. at night, and I was like, I need the next book right now. And I remember the Barnes & Noble like near me, because I was living in the suburbs. It was like 25 minutes away, and they closed at like 8 o'clock. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go right now. And I literally like sped to Barnes & Noble to get the last book of the trilogy, because I was like I can't sleep tonight. I have to start I need to know. Yeah, I did the same thing with, pretty sure, one of the Throne of Glass books.
Yes, I feel like you've told me that story before as well.
There's just been so many times where I've been reading a series and I've finished one and I go, oh my God, I can't wait. I can't like wait 2 days on Amazon. I can't wait for it to be delivered overnight. I gotta go right now.
I lied to you earlier. I did start back reading Children of Ruin.
Oh yeah.
I'm almost done with it. And I know what I'm going to read. I'm going to listen to an audiobook after this.
What are you going to listen to?
It's a Warhammer novel.
Hey.
It's another Warhammer novel. It's the 4th.
Look, I read like most of the World of Warcraft books.
Dude, and I love you for that. That makes me so happy.
I have a couple on my shelf, I'm pretty sure.
Do you know what has surprised me?
What?
You have not gotten into Final Fantasy 14.
It will come. It's on its way. Okay, so listen. I just finished 7. I want to play 10. My lovely friend Scott just bought me the entire Kingdom Hearts series. So I feel like I need to play some Kingdom Hearts as well. Here's my problem.
I'm not a fan of Kingdom Hearts.
I've never played them. I had the one that was on the Game Boy. I had it, but I was too young to understand it, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll see how it plays out for me as an adult. I feel like I have to play a lot of it because it was $70.
Yeah.
And I would feel really bad if I ended up hating it and my friend spent $70 on it. Regardless. What was I talking about? Oh, so Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
My problem, like I said, I was a World of Warcraft kid.
Yeah.
I was also like a Wizard 101 kid. MMOs are like drugs to me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so that's why I won't play 14. Is because I know that once I start...
You're not going to be able to stop.
No, you're not going to be able to pull me away from it. Like, I'm going to have to take like 3 weeks off work.
You're going to have to take longer for that. For like, FF14 from what I know about it.
So, like, the MMO Lost Ark... It was like really big in, I think it was like China and...
Is that the dinosaur one?
No.
Oh, wait, that's not even an MMO.
That's Ark.
That's just Ark Survival or whatever,
so there's an MMO called Lost Ark, and I think it might have originated in the Koreas. I'm not going to try to say like I know about it because I don't. But I remember the day that it came out because the friend group I was gaming with at the time, it was when I was really big into Apex. And I met these guys on Apex that live... near Toronto. And so like they were my go-to like gaming Discord. Like if I was on Discord, I was in their Discord. We were playing Apex together. We were playing like, you know, there's other party games, things like that. It was like who I was hanging out with at the time. And all of them were like Lost Ark's coming out. We got to get into it, blah, blah. And so I remember Lost Ark came out and literally every single one of them took off work for the whole week because like MMOs, a lot of them, like the actual gameplay starts once you reach a certain level.
Oh yeah.
So Lost Ark was like 50. So it was like a race between this friend group to get to level 50. And like I remember being at work when it launched. And so like I was on my lunch break at work and I was like on Discord and they were playing it and I was like watching them stream it. Yeah. And so I like got home from work and like made my account, was like downloading it and was like trying to do it super fast. And yeah, and that one was bad for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I just, especially now that I'm getting into Final Fantasy and I appreciate the lore aspects of it. I mean, I have like a Final Fantasy, oh my God, I have one on my phone. And I have one on my Kindle. I have like stickers from Final Fantasy 7.
That's fun.
I feel like once I play a couple more of the games and I appreciate the lore, I will appreciate 14 more.
Have you played the new FF7 remake?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So I've watched my friend Scott play it because he's the reason I got into Final Fantasy. Yeah. He's like the biggest Final Fantasy fan. And so I've watched him play. I also think it's only on the PS5 still right now.
Really? Really?
I don't think they've made a port to
I didn't know PC that it was...
Because there's Remake Intergrade that's on Steam.
Okay.
But there's another remake that's only on PS5, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know that it was a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah, well, I think that they're going to make a port for PC, and I could be totally wrong, but from the impression that I got from Scott is that it's a PS5 exclusive one. I would love to play the remake, but like Scott told me it's so much more, the world is fleshed out so much more that like, I mean, Final Fantasy 7 originally, I played that game, I think it took me like 37 hours all the way through. And Scott's like, I'm 100 hours in and I'm like only at this part in the game. And that maybe took me like 5-10 hours to get to in the original.
Oh, you played the original?
Yeah. Just because of how expansive the world is in the remake.
Okay, so you haven't played either of the remakes?
No. I've only played the original Final Fantasy 7.
Oh. I thought you were talking about like the first Final Fantasy remake.
No.
Not okay.
No, I've only played 7.
There's a remake and then there's Rebirth now.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So there's Remake Intergrade and then there's Rebirth. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so I've literally only played the original Final Fantasy 7.
I've played 2 or 3 hours of Remake.
Really?
Yeah, I have very limited gaming time.
Right. You work a lot.
Yeah. It's very hard for me as somebody who has a lot of other hobbies that take up time.
Warhammer minis.
I paint Warhammer miniatures. I started a new army, by the way. for those of you who want to know, I started Drukari Army. Those are the Dark Eldar. They might be the most evil faction. They're really bad, stinky guys.
I know what all this means.
I'm going to make you watch a
lore video.
Dude, I've been trying, so I know, because I know you would like it.
Here's my problem, and like Jack and I actually talked about this recently.
No, you did not. You did?
We both already have so many hobbies that are like money sinks.
Oh my god.
That's what we talked about, Magic, and we talked about Warhammer, and we were like, we can't get into something else because we both already have hobbies that are such like time sinks and also like money sinks.
Okay, so Magic I understand. Warhammer is different because you don't have to get into it to play the game.
Right. I own one of the video games.
Which one?
Vermintide?
Oh, yeah.
I think someone bought it for me.
Because,
was it
like,
you?
I didn't buy it for you.
Somebody bought it for me because it was like on sale. Maybe it was Jack.
Maybe. If you want to just get into it for the lore, that's cool. There's also books. There's video games. Space Marine 2 is coming out this year. Space Marine 2 looks really cool.
There's always one of their games for sale on Steam every time I'm on Steam.
Yeah, because they make a lot of games and a lot of their games are bad. They're good ones. They're really good ones.
Yeah.
But a lot of their games are bad. You don't have to do it to get into the miniature side of it.
You're like, just look at the lore.
I just want to talk to you about the funny spacemen. That's all I want to do. I just want to talk to you about Celestine the Living Saint and and Trazyn and Gilliman and Belisarius Call. I just want you to know all these names and what they mean and who they are.
And maybe that day will come. Maybe if you just keep sending me links to Warhammer lore videos, one day I'll fall asleep listening to one.
There's so many. There's so many. There are like literally playlists marked like Warhammer lore to fall asleep to.
No, I mean, that's so real. Like so most of my YouTube content, it's really funny. Well, right now, since I've been back into Valorant, I've been watching a lot of like Valorant gameplay videos. There's this one creator I really like, and he does like speed runs of like how fast he can get from one rank to like the top rank, playing an agent he's like not really played before, and they're like 2.5 hours long.
How are we in relationships?
I don't know.
We're talking. Oh man.
Yeah. My boyfriend, thankfully, is just as bad.
Oh yeah.
Because he watches like. When he's gotten back into TF2.
Oh, yeah.
And so, literally, any time of day, I could walk past his room and he's probably watching, like, a TF2 video. He's just as bad as I am. That's why it works.
TF2 lore is pretty wacky.
I don't know anything about it. I don't need to.
Okay. Yeah, you don't need to.
But, yeah, so, like, my YouTube algorithm right now is, like, Valorant videos. And then, like, I love when people do deep dives on, like, social media things that I don't really care about. But it's, like, they'll talk about this, like, TikTok person who's going through a bunch of crazy stuff. And, I don't know, I eat that up because I'm, like, that's drama I'm not involved in. I get, like, book videos, like, Newly Nova, Lexi. I love her videos.
God,
she's awesome.
She is my favorite.
She's the GOAT. Like, she's amazing.
If she ever sees this video, which she won't.
Because she, like, refuses to read Sanderson.
Does she really?
Yeah, she made, like, a video, like, last year on her TikTok being, like, books I won't read and why. And she was, like, one of the first ones was, like, the Brandon Sanderson series. She's like, I'm afraid. She's like, it's too much. I'm afraid. And, like, I'm like, please, Lexi, please read that.
I get that.
But, yeah, I also understand.
Yeah. It's the reason why you won't get into Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much.
But yeah, she's my GOAT personally.
Oh no, she's great. She's probably my favorite booktuber.
Yeah, there's a couple that I like, but she's probably my favorite. Like every time I get I actually have her notifications on, so whenever she posts, I'm eating it up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, anything you say.
It's not a trend anymore, but I really liked her videos and also other people's videos of where they would read bad books.
Oh yeah, well she just did one like a couple weeks ago where she read like mafia romances strictly for she read like 3 or 4 of them and talked about them, and I was one of them I have read.
Go on.
Because it was when I was in like my romantasy phase and I was like taking every TikTok book recommendation. I was eating it up. And one of them was Brutal Prince. And the reason I bought it, because I just, like I said, I was in my romantasy phase. I was in my little smut phase. It has pictures.
It has pictures? Of what? No.
I'm dead serious. I think if it's still on Kindle Unlimited, I'll show you. The world is a cruel place, Ryan. But yeah, so I read, I think like, if you go to my Goodreads, I read like 2 or 3 books in that series. I'm not proud of it now, awesome. But I
love that. I'm so glad you did. I think it's funny. A girl was getting back into reading.
Dude, I was dipping my toes in the water.
I get it.
Now I don't understand how people read smut. Now that I've done it.
I get why people read smut.
I mean, I do.
Yeah.
But when it's like, my problem is
I don't read smut, but.
My problem is when it's all that people read is like romance and smut.
Yeah.
That's where my problem lies. Is like when your favorite books are like ACOTAR and Icebreaker and Hunting Adeline.
Okay, all right. One of those is not like the others. But those, it's the same people that. Okay, yeah, but
and that is not. It is a generalization because not everyone that likes Icebreaker is going to like ACOTAR, and everyone likes ACOTAR is going to like Icebreaker, and not everyone likes ACOTAR is going to like Hunting Adeline, and vice versa. But there is a lot of crossover in like the romance community that also likes the dark romance things.
Yeah, and I have to say, I don't personally think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think it's totally fine. I think people can like what they like. My sister strictly only reads romance. She only reads romance, and that's it. She doesn't want to read anything else because I've literally spent money and bought her a book, and she actually told me, I'm not going to read that.
What did you buy her?
I bought her The Only One Left.
Oh, okay. And that's a good one. That's a good little thriller.
It's literally just like a thriller. And she just looked at it, and I said, so like, are you ever going to read that book? And she's like, no.
That's crazy.
And I will say I was actually pretty mad at first. And I was just like, cool. I have a copy of this book now.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I don't really understand when people are so stuck in a genre like that. But also, some people do not read as much as I do. Yeah. And so if you're only reading like one book every couple months, it can make sense that you're like, I like romance. I will continue reading romance because I historically have liked this. But I think when you read like 3-4 books a month or more or less even, I don't know. Yeah. But like, I need to switch it up sometimes. I can't just read strictly fantasy or like strictly lit fic. Like I have to switch it up. Like I need like a horror or thriller in between. Like I can't just.
Oh, for sure.
I read like 2 like mangas technically. Last month I read like a horror one. Well, I guess they were both horror technically.
What were they?
I'm gonna butcher the name. I think it's like Atsubaru or something. It's a standalone. Okay. And it's like probably about like that thick.
Oh, okay.
And it's about like a writer, and it's gross. Yeah. It was like gross, but like in a grimy way. Like, okay. Like in a like made me feel bad after I read it way. And then Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito. Oh yeah. Yeah. I bought them at like a secondhand store, and they just like sat on my shelf, and I was like, I need to read these because it will. I mean, I read them both in one sitting. Yeah. Like have you literally read Uzumaki? I think I own. Yeah, I own that one.
Have you read it?
I think so. That's the one with the spirals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
Gross. Everything I read by Junji Ito just makes me feel gross. But, like, I know what I'm getting into when I read it. Yeah.
There was supposed to be an anime for that to come out.
There is. It's on Netflix.
Did it come out?
Yeah. Jack and I tried to watch it. It came out like a year ago.
What, Uzumaki?
not Uzumaki, but like the stories of Junji Ito or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, that came out and like people hate it.
Yeah, Jack and I like watched like 1 or 2 episodes and we were like, oh.
Yeah, no.
I didn't know there was a Uzumaki exclusive one.
It was supposed to come out like a while ago, I thought.
I don't know.
I don't know what happened to it. I don't know.
Maybe the other one did so bad that they were like,
No.
I don't know.
No. This was another thing I was going to bring up. When me and Brittany first started talking, I asked her what were some of her favorite books. She told me. I was like, cool. So then she asked for some of mine. I told her, like, cool.
yeah.
So, you know, that was actually my first question I asked her on Hinge. We met on Hinge. And later on, you know, we're texting, you know, whatever. And she picks up Tress. Because I told her.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
I told her, if you have if you want to try out Sanderson.
Tress is a good place to start.
Yeah.
That's what Cortland picked up, too, when I was, like, telling him to get into
She read Tress in, like, 2 days.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And she read it. And then I picked up Akatar.
Yeah.
Because she likes Akatar. And I liked Akatar.
Did you really?
I liked the first book. I did not think it was God's gift to Earth or anything.
I can't believe you liked it. Like I
told you I liked it. I thought.
I'm just actually surprised. I don't remember if you did.
Okay, so I was hate reading it at first.
You were. I remember.
But the ending saved it for me.
Yeah.
I really liked the ending.
I don't remember how the first one ends.
And then apparently the second book changes a lot of things and apparently makes some things better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember enough about them to like say anything.
Yeah. I tried reading Fourth Wing 3 times. That book sucks. I hate it.
Yeah, I tried it. I did try it, and like the way I've seen people describe it online is like it's just for the vibes. Like you're strictly there for the vibes, and that's not what I'm there for in a book. I'm there for a story.
Yeah, look.
I'm not there.
If you like that book, cool. That book sucks.
You're allowed to like what you like, but I don't think it was for either of us.
Nope.
Yeah.
No. What else are you enjoying right now, Whitney?
Valorant. I don't know. So I don't really. I mean, we went out of town last week.
Oh yeah.
So.
Went to Savannah.
Yeah, I went to Savannah, Georgia, which was very beautiful historic little town.
Very haunted.
Yeah, we did do a ghost tour. I will say probably the highlight of the trip was the museum we went to on like the last day, the day that we like drove back, because like we live in Atlanta, so it's like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
It was like 3.5 on the way down. We hit traffic on the way back, so it was like 4 hours. And the museum we went to is called the Grave Face Museum. And it is like has a bunch of like serial killer memorabilia in it. And like I am a true crime person. Like I grew up watching NCIS with my dad. He would always make jokes. Like I love that girl Abby that was on the show, the goth girl. And like I would be like, Little
Orphan Abby.
Oh yeah, and I loved her to death. And my dad was like, you better not look like that one day.
There she is.
Anyways, it was destined.
Yeah.
But I watched NCIS growing up a lot, and then I got really into Criminal Minds when I was in like high school and college. And then like I've always like when I listen to, most of the time I listen to podcasts, they are true crime podcasts. Okay. That is definitely, I don't know, I just like a story. Yeah. And like, yeah, so I would say that I like true crime. I like reading true crime books. At one point in my life, I thought I wanted to go into criminology. I do not want to do that. Yeah. But we were there, and they had a lot of, like I said, serial killer memorabilia. They had a lot of really interesting things. They had like a whole gallery of John Wayne Gacy paintings.
Which apparently he might not have actually painted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Anyways. But I was talking to the owner when we were there because, like, they had, like, a whole exhibit for, like, Ed Gein. And, like, there was one room that was, like, Waco and Jonestown and the Manson family. They had the Spawn Ranch sign from, yeah. It was crazy.
Interesting.
Like, it's some of the stuff they had there was like wild. They had Charles Manson's like sweatpants that he wore in prison. They had Eileen Wuornos's underwear that she wore in prison.
Okay.
Eileen Wuornos is like, I don't want to say like one of my favorite serial killers because I hate that, but like she's one of the ones I find like the most interesting because she was just so nuts.
Is she the one that like poisoned people?
I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
Not on the pod.
Yeah. Probably good.
Yeah. So, because like if you're not a true crime person, I'm not going to sit here and spew that out.
A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah. So, and that's what the point I'm getting to is like, I thought I was really numb to true crime.
Yeah.
But we were in there and I just felt like honestly really nauseous the whole time we were in there. And like I said, like I feel like I was really numb to it because I listen to these podcasts all the time and I feel like I've just, you know, like kind of, I don't want to say like grew up with it, but like, you know, I've been just, yeah, I've exposed myself to a lot of it is what I should say. And so I thought I was pretty numb to it. But like when we were standing, it specifically was in like the Gacy room where we were standing there, I was talking to the owner and I was like, I feel like really sick to my stomach. And she was like, oh, that's like not our intention here at all. And I was like, I know that's not your intention, but I'm actually really happy that I feel like this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been exposed to so much true crime media that I've become numb to it. Like standing here knowing that this actually makes me feel sick is like affirming to me that like I'm not a crazy person. And that like I'm not numb to it and that I can like, I don't know, you definitely recognize it. Like, because like even when you listen to true crime stories on a podcast or whatever, you're like, this is a real person, these are real families, this is really sad, it's really depressing. But like when you are standing in it,
there is a divide between like
it was that. Like it was sickening. Like it really was to sit there and like, man, it just, the vibes were so bad. And like I know other people were not having that experience because there were other people around me that were like having a great time chatting about it, and like I just felt sick. Like I like literally leaned over to Jack at one point. I was like I think I need to go. Like I think I'm done. And like I say that was the highlight of our trip because it was like really, really cool to see everything. Like I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but like I'm a big fan of the macabre in general. So like it was really cool to see pieces of these stories that I've heard so much about. They had like Son of Sam letters.
That's crazy.
They had a drawing from Richard Ramirez, like the Night Stalker. Like it was really cool to see those things, but it also made me feel very human. Oh yeah. So, and plus we were in Savannah, so I was like, we gotta do the spooky things. But I like actually just got nauseous talking about that.
It's
like,
all good.
I'm really glad that like I said, I'm not numb to it because oh my god.
No.
You haven't seen Long Legs yet? I was about to ask.
Not yet. No, what you say, like, I think that's good, and I think that actually happens to a lot of people when it involves like darker subjects like that and everything, because as you know, with my line of work, you should tell people what you do because I don't know if you've ever talked about it. I don't know if I have. I work at a funeral home.
Brian's a last responder.
I'm a last responder, not a first responder. I'm a last responder. And I do help prepare the bodies. I am not licensed. It's not like I go in there and I do the deed myself, but I do assist wherever I can and everything. I will go pick up the deceased and everything like that. I've been doing this for like, I don't know, like 8 years now. Yeah, I've been doing this since I was like 16 years old.
Just crazy.
I was doing stuff at 16 where I probably should not have been doing them. But regardless,
it's how you make your living. So it's your career right now.
It is my career right now. I think I'm about to start the process of getting licensed and everything. Oh wow, maybe.
That's great. Yeah. Good luck with that if you continue on with that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have met people who want to know everything I do, want to know every little small detail, and I'll tell them as much as I feel comfortable telling them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Nobody wants to really know what we do.
No.
Nobody really wants to go in that room. And when they do go in that room and they see it.
Yeah.
No. Because first time I interacted with something to a more graphic extent, almost blacked out, started losing my vision.
Yeah. I don't think I could do it. I've been in a morgue one time, and it was because I had to identify my dad since he died in a public place.
And you know what's really, really funny? And I don't mean this like in any sort of way.
Yeah.
You get a lot of alternative and goth people.
Oh, yeah.
Who take interest in the work. And then they drop out of school.
Yeah, and like...
Because they realize, oh, they can't handle this.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because your idea of something is far different than what it actually is.
Right, because you think about like goth and alternative culture, and like, I mean, I will say myself, like, I have a big interest in like taxidermy and things like, is it a hobby that I have? No, but like I've done like bugs, like I've done like pinning bugs and stuff like that I found. So I found out I was allergic to silk moths. That I was like pinning one. I didn't have like, I picked it up with my bare hands because I found it outside of a Goodwill. And I picked it up with my bare hands to like take it home, and I had a crazy allergic reaction to it. It was nuts. But yeah, so I just like didn't handle it with gloves, and then the dust got on me. I was allergic apparently. But like I have a thing for just like weird stuff. I actually bought a beetle when we were in Savannah. Oh yeah, a little like not taxidermy, but a little beetle. He's so cute. And then like I've gone on record multiple times that like I really want a teeth necklace, like a necklace made from human teeth.
Yeah, you do.
It's just like a alternative thing. I have a little vase up there that's a tooth, that's for like a plant that Kennedy bought for me.
Oh yeah, I see it.
But here's the thing: is that I wanted to be a vet really bad when I was a kid. Like I want to be a veterinarian. And as I grew up, I hate blood. I can't do like guts. The human body really freaks me out. Yeah. I like things after they've become deceased. I can handle that, but like strictly animals. Humans I could not do at such a grand scale. Like, I don't know. I know that it's different to you because you do it for a living.
I'm just trying to think, could I handle animals? I don't think I could handle animals.
I came face to face with it when my old roommate had this golden doodle. And we had this house we lived in had a huge backyard, and like the golden doodle and Zeus would like go out.
Let's not get too graphic.
Yeah, but regardless. Yeah. Ended up killing a baby raccoon.
Oh, okay.
And I had to bury it because like none of the other roommates wanted to do it. Yeah. And like even the girl whose dog like killed it, she was like, I can't. And so we ended up, it was it was pretty late at night when it happened. So I went out there the next day with like a towel and like picked it up and like, you know, wrapped it in the towel to bury it. And like rigor mortis had like set in obviously because it had been overnight. Yeah. And that was the first time I was like faced with like mortality like that with like an animal. So I mean like I had like hamsters growing up, and I like buried dead hamsters, and but like it's different when it's like a bigger creature. Ugh. So I'm okay with animals. I can deal with animals, but like I don't know, like there was one girl actually that was one of our servers when I was at my parents' place in Florida, and we like went out to a restaurant, and she was in school for like mortuary science. Yeah. And she was talking about like she had been doing it for like over a year, and she was like, you know, she had lost some family member, and she was like, I just really want to be able to honor those people, and that's like why she was doing it. But like I've seen people talk about how hard and difficult like mortuary science school is and stuff, and like just power to you, because I could never, like in my head I want to think that I could, but I know that I could never do something like that.
Yeah. It's not for everybody. If anybody's listening and you have any questions, maybe I can answer some.
Hit up Ryan.
Because that's just a common thing. That's just always been in my life. Oh, you work there? What's that like? How'd you get into it? Stuff like that. You have any interest? Go for it. Because there's always a need.
Find Ryan at Dragonsteel and ask him about the fun home.
I will answer to the best of my abilities, because there are certain things I cannot talk about.
No, that's what one of my
we actually. Sorry,
what?
go ahead.
No, you first.
I talked to Dan Wells about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So last year at Dragonsteel, I talked to Dan Wells because I had recently just read the I Am Not a Serial Killer series, and anybody familiar with that? The main character works in a funeral home, and he gets a lot of stuff right. He gets some stuff wrong, for sure, but he gets a good bit of stuff right. And I wanted to know, like, what his research was like. Did he know anybody in the field? Stuff like that. Because I told you, he brought up one specific tool in there that nobody knows about this.
Yeah.
When I tell people about this, they're just like, that's crazy. I didn't know that they used that. I wouldn't even think that they had anything like that. I'm not going to say what that tool is because it's gross.
Go read the books if you want to find out, I guess.
You will know immediately what I'm talking about.
Is it in the first book?
It's in the very first book.
Okay.
Yeah, like in the beginning. So I go and I ask him, and he said he called up a bunch of funeral homes, and they did not want to talk to him.
Yeah.
They did not want to talk to him. They did not want to tell him about the process, what it was like. They did not want him knowing all this information, because that's also a liability thing.
Right.
Like, if I go and I tell you every single thing we did, one of those processes could upset somebody. They get mad. Oh, you did that to our family member. And it's like what we do to everybody.
Right.
You know? And it's just one of those things. And a lot of people don't want to know. They do not need to know what we do because it's gross and it's icky and it's messing with dead people.
And you don't want to, like, think about your loved one in that situation.
Not at all. That's why I always, like, say... Thank you, Nova. She saw I was getting heated. We got a little
she said, calm down.
Yeah. A lot of people... what I tell a lot of people is the best way for you to remember your loved one is for how they are.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always like cremation all the way.
Yeah. That's what my dad... I mean, my necklace is my dad's ashes, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's what... So both of my grandparents, like my mom's grandparents and my dad's grandparents, they are both buried. Well, my grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side are in, like, a mausoleum. Mm-hmm. Like, really? Like one of the ones that's like a big wall, you know?
Yeah.
With, like, a bunch of people. Yeah, because my grandfather was in the military.
Oh, okay.
So they did, like, they also did, like, a military service, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he fought in World War II.
Is he in the National Cemetery or just a regular?
No, it's the same one that, like, my dad's in, or my dad's ashes are in, and then my mom's, or my dad's mom and dad. But they're buried. They have, like, a headstone, so.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful cemetery, too.
Where is it?
It's in Roswell.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't say the cemetery, but just, yeah.
I really, for a second, that's why I kind of paused. I said that weird because I was like, am I about to dox?
I'm about to dox their grave.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure someone could find it if they really wanted to try hard enough. But
Find Your Grave is a website.
Yeah. I'm not at the cemetery often enough that I would worry about someone finding me from that.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was gonna say that one of my sisters-in-law is a flight nurse.
Oh, okay.
So she's like one of the nurses that's like in a helicopter that responds to like trauma accidents, and so like her biggest question, because she does that, is always like, "Oh, what's the worst thing you've seen?" And she's like, nobody ever wants to hear it.
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, like she's like, nobody wants to know the actual answer. No, because it's like really sad things, but. Yeah, so I can imagine you get the same things.
Probably the worst thing that I have ever seen. Was just last week.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Ask Ryan about it at Dragonsteel because I don't want to say it on this podcast.
Probably won't tell you. I probably won't.
He might.
If you find me drunk at Dragonsteel, maybe. Because you probably will at one point.
It will not be at Dragonsteel, but it will be after hours.
It will be at Dragonsteel. I'm going to cause a scene. No, I'm not. I'm a responsible adult.
Ryan's getting us kicked out.
Dude, I would never do that to you. I know it.
No, she's getting all comfy.
Mm-hmm.
I had this here the whole time, and now at the very end, she's like, you know what? I think I will. Mm-hmm. She got her paw, like, in a perfect... that does not look comfortable.
No. She's a cat.
She's a cat.
Whitney, I think we need to call it, because I need to go to bed.
Yeah, it's 10 p.m., and you have, like, a 45-minute drive home.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, if you've been here this long... Thanks for listening. I know. Thanks for listening to us yap about some kind of gross things today.
Yeah.
And then how much I don't like romantasy and book talk.
If you do,
teach their own. And that's none of my business. And I'm happy for you. And what I told someone the other day was like, I'm just happy that people read. I was like, I don't care that what people are reading, but at the end of the day, I'm just happy that people read.
All right, before we go, shout out Bummer Hill.
Oh, yeah, I am wearing my Bummer Hill shirt today.
Yes. Shout out Bummer Hill and their new album,
Far Removed.
Far Removed. Go listen to it.
It's on all streaming platforms.
Jack, my bestest buddy and Whitney's boyfriend, is the singer of that band, and I like them a lot. And I'm not just saying that because he is my friend. I would be honest with him. I do like their music.
Good band.
Yes.
So you should listen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our shout out for the week.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
For part 4.
For part 4 of The Way of Kings.
Okay, like, subscribe, comment.
Yeah, do all that. Share. Tell your friend. Tell your mom. Tell your dad.
Much love. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.